We are back, and I am incredibly excited to be here with everybody today. We're going to do a little different format today. You know, normally we'll have a cold open, we BS for a little while, and that cold open is always, you know, you can judge how much we want to talk about the thing by the length of the cold open. So today we're not going to have one. We're going to go right into the introductions, and then we'll talk about spoilers and whatnot for this. So over here on my left, we have the Crochet Fairy. The Homie Kaye has returned.
Hi.
From Coffee and Lore, we have the Homie Lauren.
Yay.
And then I have my illustrious co-host, the best of the best.
Oh, you know.
We have the Homie Ace, or Q, whichever.
Yeah, that's me, y'all.
And then, of course, I'm the Homie Caleb, and I'm here all the time now. So you guys are used to seeing and hearing my lovely voice. Thank you for the rounds of applause.
Oh, you're welcome. I didn't know how loud to do it. I just want to, deafen our homies.
In surround.
This is around.
Yes,
In surround,
round of
yeah.
applause.
We have a built-in applause, you know. Thank you.
Yeah. But we are here today to talk about Mistborn. This is our third Cosmere-centric episode that we have done. We covered White Sand. I feel like for a while there, me and Ace were the only people who had read it. And then we covered the first Mistborn novel, which is The Final Empire. And when we covered that, we were like, we're going to do an Era 1 review and kind of finish up all the Era 1 stuff. So that is what we are here to do today. So we're going to be covering the Well of Ascension, the Hero of Ages, and Mistborn's Secret History today to go ahead and finish up all the Era 1 stuff. What we're going to do a little kind of spoiler-free section here at the beginning. I know you'll try to make it through.
I'm going to do my best.
And then after that, we'll give a little warning. And then after that, we'll go into full spoilers for these 3 books only. We are going to do our best to not have any Cosmere spoilers beyond this stuff today. And if we do, you might have to just edit some things out. But we're going to try our best. I know I'll probably be fine, but I am worried about our other homies here.
I'm going to do my best.
That's all we ask. Just do your best, but your best has to be perfect. So that's it.
Yeah.
It's like math. That's what Sophia hates math. Because I always tell her, just do your best. And she's like, that doesn't work in math. There's one right answer.
You got to do your best to get to that right answer. Sometimes you're going to get it, and sometimes you're not.
Yep.
A lot of times not, yeah.
Especially with her algebra, jeez.
I was going to say, be thankful you're still doing the math where there's only one right answer, because, as you get into the later maths, sometimes there can be a range of answers.
Are you good at maths? Because I'm going to be phoning you.
I'm okay at the maths.
Nice. What you're really good at?
I was good at the maths. I am really good at this.
You are.
So,
The transitions.
I thought that we would talk about Sanderson's 3 laws of magic here, because we haven't talked about this, and it can act as sort of a quasi cold open. But when Sanderson writes a magic system, he has 3 kind of laws that he follows, and he actually teaches this in one of the classes that he teaches. He teaches a couple classes.
He teaches magic?
He teaches how to write about magic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He also does teach magic, because he actually, he's like a really good magic player. It's like The Gathering.
You got me with that one. I was thinking that maybe he was friends with Alan Moore or something.
Oh, no.
He was
he might be.
Yeah, they could.
I feel like Alan Moore would hate Brandon Sanderson.
I think like their world views and philosophies, like one is definitely a Thanos is right nihilist, and the other one I think is more optimistic.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but I think also Brandon will never allow adaptations that he hates to exist, and I mean Alan Moore clearly hates every adaptation of anything.
Every single damn one. Yep.
Yeah, he does.
Even the ones he hadn't seen, he hates.
Yeah. So the 3 laws of magic. Number 1. An author's ability to solve conflict with magic is directly proportional to how well the reader understands said magic. I think that is a phenomenal statement. We see a lot of like TV shows and movies now where they just have vague abilities. Mm-hmm. It's one of the things that bothered me about Moon Knight, which a lot of people really loved, and like we liked it too, or I liked it. I think you probably liked it a little more than I did. And you and I were talking about it the other day.
Yeah, and you brought up this point. And I was like, okay, I concede on that part.
A little bit of the comic purist came out in me. And by comic purist, I mean just the barest form of accuracy. But other than that, it was a fine show.
And, well, I really hate when people have vague abilities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just it just becomes a plot device. Like, this person can do whatever needs to be done for the plot at that moment.
No, absolutely. As a person who reads an elevated amount of fantasy books,
I think that's an understatement.
I mean, number 147 will be finished tonight.
Sheesh. You gonna go home and do some more reading?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if Kay is the same way, but I have to at least flip a few pages in order to turn my brain off. Because, I mean, you're telling me you do a whole day worth of shit, and then you go lay down, you close your eyes, and you just go to the depths of sleep?
I let it take me.
That's insanity.
I can't do that. I can't do that.
Unmedicated, I could never.
Well, so here's the interesting thing. I do enjoy the reads, as you may or may not be able to tell.
Yeah.
However, this is the ironic part. I don't know, maybe God has a sense of humor, but reading makes me very sleepy. So
it makes me sleepy too, especially if I'm laying there in the pitch dark and I just have my Kindle on low dark mode.
Oh yeah.
Then that helps me to fall asleep.
It depends for me if it helps me to fall asleep or if it wakes me up. It depends on how good the story is. And so I have books on my Kindle that are intentional boring, and I know they're boring, and I'll go to them when I need to go to sleep.
Yeah, I would never start a book I'm really excited about. That's why I have maybe 3 books going at one time. I typically have an audiobook going for if I'm going to be in the car for a long time, for if I decide to go to the gym that day, whatever, I have an audiobook going. And then I typically have something out of my library, a physical book that I use. And then I'll have something on my Kindle. And usually whatever's on my Kindle is from like Kindle Unlimited or whatever, maybe a rent from the library. And it's something I'm very casually interested in that if I fall asleep and it hits me in the face, I'm not going to be pissed off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I usually have 2 Kindle books going. One that is kind of boring, and then one that I'm really into, and then I'll have an audiobook going, and then I'll have a physical book going.
I gotta bring you over to the library at some point because I really want to do some organizing, and I keep seeing the TikToks with the color organizing, but I just don't know if I love it for a few reasons. We'll talk about maybe on my show, not all these people's time. But I need your opinion.
I was just telling Ace that we should take all these graphic novels down and organize them.
By color, I could see it. Do the whites, the blue, the black.
No.
Oh, that
absolutely not. No. Alphabetically, at the library. No.
Because right now you have them organized by superhero type thing, right?
I do, and they are mostly actually in alphabetical order.
Except there's a spider shelf and a bat shelf, and
well, that's because that's where they should go. But there's just so many of them. It looks like a Spider-Man shelf,
right,
and a Batman shelf. It really is.
That's my current technique. I have a rom-com shelf, a romantasy shelf, a high fantasy shelf. But I see this aesthetic color-coded thing when I'm scrolling, and I'm like, that looks so good. But I just don't think it would work because I can't have the Lord of the Rings next to the darkest dark romance ever if they're the same color. You know what I mean? That's not the vibe.
For comic book collectors, it's just about the spines and admittedly I'm a part of that group that drives me insane. If there's a trilogy of Omnis that are coming out, but they have different spines.
I hate it.
The height is one of the things that gets me.
The
height.
Yes.
Yeah.
They have to be the same.
Especially if they're all in the same series. It's why? Why are you doing this?
Mistborn Era 2 is like that. Lost Metal is a little bit taller than the other 3.
It's very annoying.
Different printer?
No, they're all Tor. Yeah, and I think it was just the time gap, maybe. I don't know, but
I'm not a fan.
they're not next to each other on my shelf like the leatherbounds are, and they're all perf. But yeah,
if you order the leather bounds, they're gonna be.
Yeah, you're talking about falling asleep for an audiobook. These books, I cannot like listen to the audio when I'm tired because Michael Kramer's voice, like I love him as audiobook narrator. I think he might be the GOAT, like him and Kate both, his wife. But his voice is so soothing.
Yeah.
If it puts me to sleep, I'm out. I'm not going to wake up until that book is over. At least with the Stormlight books, Kate's voice will wake me up and I'll be like, oh God, I'll go to sleep and pause it. But if it's like one of these books where it's just Michael, I mean, I'll be 42 chapters later and have no idea what's going on.
Right. Like, where are we? Yeah.
Speaking of Michael Kramer, so the second rule, and this is why I actually wanted to bring this up, is weaknesses, limits, and costs are more interesting than powers.
1,000% agree with that. Man, there's a lot of comic book writers that need to take a look at that one.
Yeah.
Sorry, I hate the notion that a character is more interesting because they have more powers. Batman is still the man for a reason after 90 years on top. You know, he ain't got no superpowers, but it's about who they are as characters and what they are able to overcome, not about all their vast, amazing feats or abilities.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I think it's hard for Superman to resonate.
Yeah, because he doesn't pay a lot of cost for that power. Where like a Spider-Man, you know that he's gonna lose his connection with MJ. You know that his uncle's gonna like. Spoiler alerts if you don't know Spider-Man. You know his uncle's gonna die or whatever. Like all this stuff. You know what I mean? So with Spider-Man, you see the cost, but with Superman, you just really don't. I feel like
it took a while for them to get there.
Yeah,
but they
Superman is best when when the conflict is within him. Mm-hmm. When he has to like weigh his Kryptonian heritage versus his humanity. Like I feel like those are the best Superman stories typically.
Yeah, no, I agree. Not to rabbit hole us already, but I recently read what is probably my favorite Superman story, Superman for All Seasons.
Wow. More than All-Star Superman.
I like him more than All-Star Superman. I wish that the movie was based off of Superman for All Seasons instead of All-Star.
I'm going to have to read it because All-Star Superman was amazing and I don't even like Clark.
It's it was fantastic, but all it is just a chronicle of like his upbringing and then like his early days of Superman, and it was one of the most touching stories I've ever read, and they were able to do so while allowing you to see the humanity in Clark. I think one of my favorite scenes is when his parents are out on the porch and they're talking and they're worried about their teenage son because of his abilities and will he be able to acclimate in society. Meanwhile, he's upstairs in his room laying down. His room is illustrated beautifully. You can tell what kind of person he is by everything that's around his room. But he can clearly hear everything they're saying, and it just he's worried about it because they're worried about it. And now he feels like I'm not the son who I wish I could have been for them. So there's a lot of things like that in that book that really just kind of help build this character more.
Yeah, I gotta read it now.
Yeah,
if it's better than All-Star Superman,
I think so.
I hope the movie's only loosely based on All-Star Superman.
It can't be completely
because All-Star Superman is fucking weird. Like there's like really weird shit that happens in that book. You just kind of have to roll with it. You got it's kind of like watching One Piece, like on the live action on Netflix. If you've never seen the anime, it's like a dude just walks up and he's got like a fucking green turkey on his head. And you just got to be like, all right, we'll just roll with it. Yeah. All right, cool.
That's how I watched it. I didn't know not one solitary thing about One Piece.
I love the live action One Piece. It's so good. So good.
I enjoyed it as well.
They took everything about anime and instead of running away from it, they just leaned right into it.
That's what I hear.
And it worked.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Yeah, they're like, we're just going to make it as weird as the anime is, and what do you know? Like sticking to the source material, it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got anything else we want to say about number 2 before we move on? I mean, you both read a lot of fantasy. I know for me, when there aren't like weaknesses or limits or costs defined for magic, it tends to get muddy, right? Like,
yeah,
it hurts the plot, in my opinion.
I'm currently listening to the Harry Dresden Files.
Oh, such a good one.
He has a lot of, I guess, limits on his magic. So he has like the limits that are what he can and can't do, and then he also, on top of that, has like the laws of magic that all wizards have to follow. from their white council. And so it's like, yeah, you can do this, but no.
And my audiobook is actually magic based right now too. I'm listening to the Anita Blake Vampire Hunter novels. I always pick them up this time of year because they're just super creepy and spooky. And starting in October, I just keep... There's like 35 of them, so I just kind of keep a running tally. Oh yeah, these have been coming out since I was in middle school, maybe even early 90s. Laurel K. Hamilton's been writing these since...
Forever.
But I really enjoyed her, not so much magic system as well as much as supernatural system, the way she describes her monsters and their limits on power and things like that. And that connect. Are you familiar with that series at all?
A little bit. I haven't read it, but Jasmine is, and we've talked about it a little bit because I've been very into Harry Dresden and she's very into that, and so we'll just have like conversations about how the magic, or because they're vampires in Harry Dresden, like how are these vampires different from the ones that are
in the
over
Laurel
here?
K. Hamilton world. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that Jasmine likes us because we both also love the Black Dagger Brotherhood. We have very similar tastes in books.
I think everybody here would probably like Dresden Files. It's really good urban fantasy.
You have told me before about them. I just haven't gotten
The graphic novel's crap. Don't read it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's crap.
That's unfortunate.
I don't know. They did the Anita Blake Vampire Hunter graphic novels. I don't know if they're any good or not.
Yeah, the Harry Dresden ones are crap. The TV show that Sci-Fi did is crap. The audiobook is pleasant.
Wait a minute. Sci-Fi made a shitty TV show.
I know, right?
Wow.
It's drastic.
These guys, we reviewed the old Dune movie, which has my all-time lowest score on this podcast. I gave it a 1.
No.
I only gave it a 1 because it has Patrick Stewart in it, and I figured he's worth 1. Otherwise, it would have been a 0.
I haven't seen the OG Dune.
Oh, you should.
Don't
check it out.
I love the new Dune movie, so I wouldn't want to ruin it for myself.
Yeah.
It's.
I mean, Patrick Stewart's in it.
He's got a mug, too.
And a pug. But to say that, for some reason, all of the Atreides people, they all have a pug. I mean, there is book basis for that, but the way it happened in the movie made no sense.
It's weird. It's just weird.
The new movies are not even a remake of the 84. Like, the 84, I don't know what they were doing. Like, it's a very loosely based on the graphic novel something.
It was
nice.
Yeah, there's no...
It was the 80s. That's what we got.
Some of my favorite movies came out in the 80s. Like, some of my absolute goats came out in the 80s. But for their campiness. Like, not for their amazing cinematography.
There's not even any camp in this. Like, the whole, like, Paul Atreides, like, struggling with being, like, this messianic figure, that's not in the movie at all. Like, he's just like, I'm the chosen one, that's right, and we're gonna go. All the on Arrakis, very white. It's like...
in the desert, we are white.
It's a different kind of sun, okay? Like,
it must be. It makes you paler.
Yeah, it was one of my grandfather's favorite movies, and so I have seen it over a dozen times, and I really wish that I hadn't.
Oh, wow. You poor thing.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's really bad. But, I bring this up because when we watched it, they were like, we should review the sci-fi Dune also. And I was like, let's not do that. I think we've suffered enough.
Yeah, sci-fi. They have some good ones, but they also have some like really awful ones. And Harry Dresden, they really messed him up.
Let's do number 3 so we can get into the actual books. But the third Sanderson Law of Magic, the author should expand on what is already part of the magic system before something entirely new is added, as this may otherwise entirely change how the magic system fits into the fictional world. I think that this is kind of evident in this series, right? We start with the very basic foundations of what allomancy is, and we kind of expand to a point on that before we get introduced to Furakemi. And then kind of the same thing again, it isn't until the last book that we get introduced to hemalurgy. So I think that he definitely went there with this one. I don't know about Stormlight. Stormlight, I feel like we get introduced to like new things from all directions all the time.
No, I agree. That is I'm a Stormlight girl, but that is one of my favorite things about Mistborn is the way that he fed the information to you. It felt a lot simpler to understand than Stormlight in some ways.
Yeah.
If it was a beginning reader, I would absolutely tell them to go Mistborn first.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if it was somebody in my book club or my friend who reads a lot, you know what I mean, I would almost go Stormlight first, just because that's the one that I feel like would hook some of my friends a little bit more.
Yeah, for Mistborn series, it's kind of like you're thrown into a world where the magic is fully understood. And Stormlight, you have the benefit of, in the world they're rediscovering it, but they don't really know what's going on. And so as they're learning, you're learning.
Yeah.
And so Vin is kind of that in Mistborn, but I mean, even she has a basic understanding of what.
I can see Chrysalis showing up like to Rashar early, being like, "So what kind of magic do you guys have here?" Magic? We don't have any magic. Okay, well I took a wrong turn. I'll be back in like 1,000 years. See if anything is improved. It probably hasn't. Yeah, so I thought that'd be a nice little open discussion to have at the beginning of this.
Yeah, I like that because I mean these three things can damn near be applied to, you know, fantasy fiction just across the board.
I agree.
You know,
I mean, you can apply it to Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
Like in all the best Star Wars properties, you have a very good understanding of what the Force is and isn't capable of doing. And then there are some where it can just do whatever.
Yeah, I was like, well, you know,
Did you finish The Acolyte?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it.
Okay. I'm only halfway through The Acolyte right now.
The next to the last episode, I think there's 8 episodes. The 7th episode is tremendously horrible. It's like the reverse Agatha. Like, it's like the 7th episode is so terrible because essentially, you know, did we review that yet?
no,
We just talked about doing it? Okay.
Yep.
But welcome to the mini Acolyte review. Basically,
when you guys do Andor, I want to be here.
we're going to definitely do Andor Season 2.
Okay.
Like, I'm sorry, Andor Season 2, A Star Wars Story. They added that little at the end.
Okay.
So, gotta be...
Oh, I gotta take a breath. A Star Wars
Star Wars
story.
But, yeah, the... basically, in order to make it all make sense, the Jedi make the most inane, like, ridiculous, stupid decisions in order to make the whole thing make sense. But in episode 8, you get a really cool lightsaber fight, and I'm like, okay, I'm here for it still. I'm like, okay, you got me. I would like it if the plot also made sense.
But this is a really nice fight.
But if you're going to give me a cool lightsaber fight, I'll forgive.
Yeah.
Or you could give me three movies with no plot and no lightsaber fights that are cool, and then we have a really big problem. I might still be bitching about it a number of years later.
10 years later.
Yeah. So, let's get into the material that we're covering here tonight. Ace, I'm going to start with you because you read this, the most recent out of everybody. It's been like 10 years since I read Well of Ascension, so if there's anything I missed, y'all have to forgive me. What was your thoughts on these, man? Just overall vague thoughts. No spoilers yet.
All right, so no spoilers yet. I think that I enjoyed Well of Ascension maybe more than others. This one was actually very much in line with like my type of groove. I like wartime.
Yeah.
And I like seeing the fallout. Like we all see or read stories where we get to the point where the evil overlord is overthrown and then roll credits. And I guess we're just supposed to assume in most cases that, all right, well, you know, everybody lives happily ever after. But no, in this case, we see the fallout, and there's a lot of repercussions economically, politically. I mean, so just in so many different ways, they kind of have to pick up the pieces, and shit is not gravy. Shit is not cool. And our heroes make a lot of mistakes along the way. They all have to kind of learn a lot of details along the way, and there's a lot of moving devices that's going on in the background, and sometimes right in front of you, that you really have to pay attention and kind of put the pieces together. And Sanderson does a really interesting kind of reveal, or how he does his reveals, in the sense of like you'll get the information needed where you could potentially put it together, and then you'll get something else later on that maybe makes your theory more concrete, and then he just flat out tells you this is what's going on. And I think that's a really cool method of storytelling. I mean, I definitely understand why Well is commonly considered the least favorite of the trilogy, but I think it's very, very essential. And I think there's a lot of really cool things we get in this book that maybe isn't for everybody, but I appreciate the effort in terms of like the political warfare that goes on. So I dug it.
Any other? Am I the only one who like Well of Ascension is like the bottom?
I like Well of Ascension. I like books in the middle.
I like it. Don't get me wrong.
So
it's no Two Towers.
For me, yeah, okay. For me, I like books where you have established characters and you know what they started out for. And so the second one is usually like where they shine. And then the third one is where they're having PTSD and shit.
Yeah, I always say on my channel that I'm a book 2 girl.
Yeah, book 2 is usually where the magic is.
Yeah.
Like,
yes. I
Here we
am a book 2 girl. And not saying that I don't love the others. I don't love Hero of Ages as much. But Well of Ascension, I think the thing is that when you look at it as a whole, as a book 2 in a Sanderson thing, it just lets me down. And yes, it was good for the political turmoil and stuff like that, but I just felt like I was reading, and I think Caleb feels the same way, a prequel, a build-up, an entire book's worth. Had I been reading them as they came out, the wait between Well of Ascension and Hero of Ages would have been awful. So I guess that's why it's my least favorite book, because I feel like it's almost a book 1.5 almost. Like have you read Powerless?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, have you read the novella?
No.
Okay, have you read Reckless?
No.
Okay.
I've only read the first one.
Got it. So they came out as book 1, novella, book 2. I told my friend just this weekend, who was asking me what to read after Powerless, like which one. I said, read book 1, book 2, and then the novella, or else you're going to be pissed, because you're going to spend all this time reading this novella, and you're going to lose the connection with the original kind of characters. And that's kind of how I felt a little bit in Well of Ascension. Like, I was dragging through, and I was almost missing the pace of book 1, which book 3 then picked back up for me, but it just made it drag for me. That's just me personally, though.
I agree with that. It's like, for me, Final Empire is damn near a standalone book, right? Mm-hmm. Like, when you start to read Final Empire, you 100% believe the Lord Ruler is going to be, like, the big bad of this series. It's what it's all going to be about.
Yep.
When you get to the end of book 1, you're like, what's the other 2 books about?
Yeah.
And to me, Well of Ascension does not have book 2 energy. To me, it has book 1 energy. Again, so it's like Second Monday. Like, for me, it is a part 1 of 2 for Hero of Ages. As a matter of fact, it could damn near be Hero of Ages part 1 and Hero of Ages part 2. Yeah. As that, I think it really works. I don't think you could take it out. Obviously, there's a ton of
information, and
yeah,
especially about the political environment, about the magic system, and things like that. It's essential. It just,
I think that's also like another thing for me, is that I really love the information overload. I really love that. Like the first 500, 600 pages of
Way of Kings.
Yeah, I'm down for that. That's awesome. The first half of like Lord of the Rings, where they're in Hobbiton and all the happiness is happening, but you're also getting all this extra lore. Tom Bombadil, meeting with the elves, like you need all of that information so that later on you find out and know how important other stuff is. And I just really like that, like, because it makes it more immersive for me. So I guess that's another reason why I just like, give me the info dump. I want to know everything.
There's definitely certain things I really love in Well of Ascension, and the ending is among them, and we'll get into that later for sure. But we'll get into the specifics in a bit. How about Hero of Ages?
Oh yeah, I mean, so this is like the Big Mac Daddy, you know.
Yeah.
We'll talk about. I mean, obviously, I really enjoy Heroes of Ages. I think that has a very satisfying conclusion for me. It's not like this neatly tied, perfectly presented present, right? Like it shows like the consequences of certain actions, the fallouts. It's got some great twists, some great reveals. We see some excellent character growth, and they're put in situations where, you know, it's either, you know, piss or get off the pot type deal.
Yeah.
You know, we see a lot of stuff like that in Hero of Ages. So I think that one is, I thought it was tremendous. You know, I really had a blast with that book. I will say this, I think that all in all, Final Empire is still my favorite.
Okay.
I would agree. I think Final Empire is my favorite in the series.
Interesting. What about you? Which one of the three?
Probably Hero of Ages. I actually really love it because I love Spook.
Yeah. Hero of Ages is probably it for me. Can I pick Secret History? If so, then I pick that.
My husband, who started this series the same time that I did, actually quit reading it after Final Empire.
Yeah.
He never finished Mistborn. He's read all through Stormlight. Like, he's waiting on the last book, like I am. But he could not get past the ending of Final Empire.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, we can.
Was his character.
We can full
that he
spoil
identified.
Final Empire here.
Okay, so we can. So Calcier's death.
Yeah.
He could not get past it because that was his character in that book.
I get
That'd be
that.
like if Kaladin died.
Oh,
You know
don't
what
say
I
that
mean?
to me.
But
I will riot.
Right,
I'm writing a strongly worded letter. I am.
I saw a thing the other day where it's like OnlyFans, but I just tell you that Kaladin's gonna be okay.
And see,
Just take my money.
Kaladin, if the arc is right, I'd be okay with Kaladin dying. But you know, Dalinar's my dude. Like, and I know it's probably gonna be him. And so I've kind of mentally prepared myself preparing for it, but I love Dalinar.
I'm prepared for anyone to die except for Kaladin.
I'll be honest with you. I think I'm same. I will probably shed tears if Dalinar goes. This is not the Win and Truth preview podcast, so
No, it's not.
we
but
apologize.
I cannot wait for us to review that freaking book, dude.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do that. We're just gonna have to come over here and borrow your studio, and you just go throw the headphones in.
Yeah, I'll be lurking somewhere. You know?
Yeah, because we're gonna have things to talk about.
Oh yeah, because we'll probably all finish it. Kay and I will finish it around the same time.
Yeah.
Damn.
I am 30 chapters ahead of both of you.
That's true. That's true.
He is.
Have you read any of the pre-stuff?
I have a little bit, but I didn't really get into it because I don't like here's a chapter, we're going to wait. Here's a chapter, we're going to wait.
I don't either.
It drives me bonkers.
I have not read a word of it.
I want to speed read.
I love that
I
you're
just wanna
both
go.
like this, so I have a little hope. I have a head start, so when they hand me that book, I can take those first like 150 pages and flip, and then it'll take her like an hour to catch up to me tops. But I'll have a little bit of hope.
That's a small window.
Well, I'm having an outpatient surgery on the day that the book comes out, so I will probably have it finished in a day on the 7th because I can't get out of bed.
I got a long play run.
Yeah, you'll finish it before we get back from the convention.
Just because I will be bedbound, so I will just have my little boppy pillow. I bought one of those baby boppy pillow things. We'll talk after about the thing, but and I'll just be turning pages.
Yeah. It's gonna be something else. But I'm not prepared for Kaladin to die either. So, but
yeah, so that's why he couldn't get past that, and he just didn't pick up the other two Mistborn books.
That's fair. I mean, I get it. Like,
I've understood. I understand. I've had series that I put down because something had happened in the first.
I almost did that with Throne of Glass because I read the prequel first. I read the Assassin's Blade first, and my favorite character dies a brutal death. And then you're telling me there's an 8-book series to follow? It took me a very long time to read that series because of that. I ended up just crossing out a month of my calendar year and being like, nope, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to binge read this series. I'm going to live in this series until it's done. And I'm glad that I did because it's not my favorite books individually, but I think I've told you this before, as a whole entirety, I think it is brilliant and beautiful and epic and incredible, and it makes you feel all of the emotions. But I almost stopped after that first prequel.
I think the Kelsier death is hard for everybody that reads this.
Yeah.
I think when it happens, you kind of are like, okay, I get it. Because he does take that mentor role. Mm-hmm. And if you want to get killed off, that is like the number one role to get killed off in.
For sure.
That's why I never want to be a mentor.
Yeah. Obi-Wan Kenobi started it, and it just went from there. I guess actually probably goes all the way back to like Gurney Halleck from Dune. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Because they kill him like a bunch of times in the books. He comes back as a zombie and everything.
That's on my resolution for next year's Dune. I think I've told you that.
Stop it. Read the second one and stop.
Yeah, you told me that. You were like, don't go too far. Don't get into the worm, baby.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah, if you go past, what is it? Children of Dune? No. That is a book, but that's not the... Anyway, I can't rabbit hole Frank Herbert right now. Any other thoughts on Hero of Ages before we...
Go spoiler full.
Well, we got to talk about Secret History.
Oh, yes.
Ace, what was your thoughts, man? You didn't have to wait 10 years.
Yeah, no, I didn't have to wait because that kind of time.
Because Mistborn, Final Empire came out in 2006, and then we got 10 years before Secret History was released.
Yeah, that's crazy. There's that kind of gap. Secret History, it felt like visiting an old friend again, so I can only imagine what it felt like for people who had to wait that kind of time.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's the first time anyone's heard from Kelsier since he died, in terms of like the readers.
What else do you think about it?
Okay. Yeah, all right. Kay, what do you think about that, about what I just said? You think
So I really like the part where Hoyt shows up.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
I love Hoyt.
We will definitely get into that in a bit. We all love that part for sure.
When in doubt, deflect.
Yeah. Right.
No, I mean, Secret History, it felt like... So for me, I'm a huge fan of Breaking Bad, right? Like, it's probably my favorite TV show of all time.
Really?
Yeah.
I think we've talked about this before. I can't get past the first season.
Well, we can still be friends despite that.
Yeah, we have talked about that, and every time you tell me about it, within like a day, my brain deletes that fact about you, and then you tell me again, and it's like you told me the first time.
He's rewatching through it.
I just finished it last night.
Yeah.
But,
I don't know why, but go ahead. So it's your favorite show?
Yeah, because it's absolutely amazing. Everyone should watch it.
I agree. It's got some of the best writing in all of television, for sure.
But a few years after the series ended, the showrunners, they made a movie on Netflix that was kind of like a pseudo-sequel called El Camino. And this is where we get to see the POV from one of the main characters, like what happens after his story, quote-unquote, ends in Breaking Bad. And now, is it necessary for anyone's enjoyment of Breaking Bad? No. But is it an excellent addition to the story they already have? Absolutely. And that's kind of how I view Secret History. Like, I don't think that you need to read this per se to enjoy the Mistborn trilogy. And as a matter of fact, I think it runs the same risk that El Camino ran with Breaking Bad, being that like this could actually retroactively hurt, the previous series more than it could help if you don't play your cards right. But they did, and so all it does is just it gives more value, more entertainment to something that was already high value, and that's kind of how I view Secret History, same way.
I think for me, like Hero of Ages, whenever I get somebody started on the Cosmere, right, that the end of Hero of Ages, that's the moment I want them to get to, right? Because I have yet to see anyone put it down after that. Right. Like, I mean, the best example would be Oz, but that's mainly because he just can't get through a 64-hour audiobook. Yeah, I mean, for the most part, like, if you get there, that's kind of the title screen for the rest of the Cosmere, right? This is like you're playing a Rockstar game and you're 42 hours into the tutorial. And then, like, the name of the game pops up. And you're like, oh, this is the real game now. Here we are. That's what that is. And to me, Secret History, while it is mildly important to the trilogy, I think it fills in some necessary gaps. And I don't think there's anything in it where it's contrived, like Sanderson didn't always plan it that way, Right. Because all of it just slots in and makes sense. But I think for the Cosmere as a whole, and maybe the future of Mistborn, I think it was essential.
Okay.
Where do you think it should be read, Secret History, at the end?
Right here, yeah. This is a very fiercely debated thing in the fandom as to where you should read this, because there's a lot of people that say release order. This came out with Bands of Mourning. So you read Bands of Mourning, and I will admit, there is a little, like, kind of a Avengers after credit scene at the end of Bands of Mourning where a thing happens.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, right here is best.
Yeah, and if you had never read Secret History, then that little sting would have been like, huh? But it's not worth that to wait all that time, because I feel like this is best read when the trilogy is fresh, because it all takes place in the background of the original trilogy. I think if you really waited 10 years to read this, you're not going to get all the little stuff that you would get if you read this right after Hero.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a big debate in the Throne of Glass community as well with that prequel that I was telling you about where a main character dies, what order you read it in.
Yeah.
And if you read it in release, then you're going to read it first like I did. But it turns a lot of people off. So there's a huge debate on reading it third, because it just basically does what Secret History does. It just gives you back information on your main character.
Right.
When you read Throne of Glass, because I know you dabbled in it, I don't know that you finished it.
I have it.
I
haven't finished. I have the book. I haven't
just
the
book one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you had gotten, have you read Assassin's Blade?
I think I did.
Okay, the one where the main guy dies at the end of it. Too many stories going. Too many stories going.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk because I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, it's a big debate in that community, and I could see it being one in this as well. Like, where do you read this book for the least amount of spoilers, the most amount of impact and information? Because that's what you want out of something like Secret Histories. You want an impact. You know what I mean? You want to be like, oh, shit. You know what I mean? That's that moment I feel like is going for.
That's fair. I think that reading it while it's all fresh is probably the best.
I read it, I think, right after Hero of Ages, before I started Era 2.
And just Cosmere-wise, too, like, I think in Secret History, like, if you read it right after Hero of Ages introduces you to the concept of the shards. And then you're like, man, this is crazy. And then in Secret History, it's kind of like you find out, oh, there's how many of these things out there? Whereas, like, if you read it in publication order, you'd already know that. Like, you'd already have that information from other things. I think it's much better to get it here. Because you get it here, and you're like, okay, well, what are the other ones doing? And then when you go to read the other books, it's like, well, this is what they're up to. So,
what does Sanderson say?
I think... So, you're going to find that I actually disagree with Brandon about quite a few things, and I'm not actually sure. I think he's either way.
Okay.
I think he's fine with timeline order or release order.
Yeah.
He tries not to pick sides in a lot of these things.
The only thing I am adamant about is I used to be very Warbreaker and Tress and things could be standalones. No. I really think you need to read the rest of the Cosmere before you read them to fully... And the reason I say that is because Tress of the Emerald Sea is one of my favorite books ever written, and I love it. It was my book of the year for 2023, I believe, or 2020. Yeah, it had to have been 23. It was my favorite book of 23. And I had a friend read it who has not read the rest of the Cosmere. And she still loved the book. She said it was beautiful. She's actually a librarian. And she was like, I'm going to get it for the kids. And I'm like, yeah, it's a beautiful book. But she had so many questions.
There's so much you don't get.
Yeah,
and it spoils Hero of Ages.
Many questions.
Huh.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I would answer the questions for her because she's not at a point in her life. She's got small children. Like, she's not going to sit down and read the Cosmere right now in her life. So I would answer the questions for her, but I felt like it's so much more impactful if you've read it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And to me, Tress is the least of the secret projects where that's the case. Like, the other two are like, absolutely don't read these if you haven't read everything else. And Brandon actually has said, like, that he's okay with people starting with Tress, and I'm just like, no. Like, it spoils Hero of Ages. Like, no, just no. But I get it, though, because the book is so popular.
I think the only one that really could be read by itself is the Wizard one.
It's not Cosmere, though.
Yeah.
So.
Got it. So
I actually DNF'd it recently. I put it down. I'm going to go back to it, but I did put it down.
I enjoyed it. But I'm a mood reader. I've got to be reading it at the right time with everything.
It very much reminded me of Hitchhiker's Guide.
It's very much in the vein of that.
I did the audiobook for it, and I listened to it while we were on our way back in the spring to Ren Fair.
Maybe I need to listen to it, but...
Yeah, the audiobook is very good.
Because I think...
was originally supposed to do that.
Hitchhikers is a read-out-loud book, so...
Oh, yeah. But yeah, David Tennant was originally going to come on and do the audio for that.
Really?
But his schedule, they just couldn't work it out.
That's sad.
Well, it probably was recorded during the pandemic time, right? So that might have played a path into it.
He wrote them during the pandemic, so yeah, probably somewhere along those lines. That was back during his war with Audible.
Can we say that word on here?
Pandemic?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
say whatever on here.
We say all kinds of shit on here.
I know on YouTube I don't know if that's still a thing, but for a little while,
the algorithm
algorithm would fuck you up.
That's why I always called it the Globe of Pepperoni.
Yeah, or the panorama or whatever. You know what I mean? It would mess with your algorithm.
I think they finally calmed down on that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, and the homies are loyal and they are legion. So,
that they are, and they also don't give a fuck.
Yeah, that's right.
I get a little notification in my email from Patreon talking about the homies have uploaded a video, and I'm like, I know what I'm doing at work tomorrow.
We are putting out so much content this week. So.
It's a busy
That's
week.
Amazing. I'm excited.
That being said, here it is right here. This is your last warning. We're about to start getting into the details.
So 48 minutes in, guys.
Yeah, if you have not read these, this is about the same for our movie reviews. Sometimes it's an hour and 30 minutes in, and we're like, all right, maybe we should score this thing.
Right.
But this is your last warning. So, listen, if you haven't read these, I could not recommend them enough. Go read them. This is where you should dip out. If you want to get into all the little details, stick around. We're going to talk about it in depth. And you've been warned. So, if you're still here, it's about to go down.
It's about to go down.
About to go down.
So, Well of Ascension... We check back in with our main characters. This is as you kind of put it, the Overlord's been overthrown, right?
Right.
Very few, I think, forms of fiction cover this, right? It's always, we overthrew the bad guy, that's it. Roll credits,
Mm-hmm. Yep. The aftermath.
Rarely do you ever get the day after. Yeah. And we kind of find out why in this book. The shit's messy.
Yeah.
It is. You got new religions forming. You've got people being made into godlike people. You've got all the messiness.
And then the way that the sky lived was horrible.
Yeah.
but it was a way of life. Now, what's their way of life?
Right.
You know?
Absolutely. And I feel like there's a lot of like, I don't know, I feel like Brandon does put a lot of either like religion or political stuff in there. He sneaks it in sometimes. And it's very much like a colonizer type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, it was a shit life, but it was structured and they had been living this way for some time. And now it's like the dam hath broken.
Yeah.
And there's no laws or control or rules or...
Yeah, I mean, change is hard for humans, right?
Right.
One of my favorite little sayings is like, we fight to hold on, we fight to let go. And that's humanity, right? Like, we don't enjoy change, whether it's good, bad, whatever. Change is always disruptive.
Well, and I think maybe it's a layer deeper than that, because like if I know that every time I open up my refrigerator to get some food, I'm gonna get punched in the face, that sucks. But at least I know after I get punched in the face, I get food.
Yeah.
Now, if you tell me you can get me a refrigerator that won't punch me in the face, but there may or may not be food in there, now I'm like, I might want to stick with my current fridge where I get punched in the face, because at least I know I get food.
Exactly. Now I don't have to figure out or worry,
Right.
is there going to be food there?
Yeah.
Yeah, and not to mention you've got Ellen, who was, I think, a great revolutionary, but those people very rarely are able to transition into effective leaders.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you got to figure out, because like the revolutionary, that's almost the idea man, you know. But it's like, okay, you're the idea man, but who's going to be the person who figures out to put all of this into action, into like a plausible solution that can actually work?
To take a wrestling reference, oh my gosh, I'm throwing one of those out.
Hey.
You need a the actual wrestler, and then you need your what's the word I'm looking for?
Like your manager.
Your manager.
Uh-huh.
You need your idea guy. You
Yeah.
need the guy that's going to make the matches, but then you need the guy who's actually going to be able to successfully
Right.
complete this match and do what needs to be done. And I
true.
just don't know that Ellen was the guy doing the fighting. You know what I mean? Like, he had all the big ideas, though.
He
And I love
fails.
him for it.
He just kind of fails upward in this book.
He does, but I think that also has a lot to do with Tindril. How do you say her name?
The
Tindwell.
Tindwell,
Tindwell.
yeah.
Tindwell's the idea person.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can talk about her.
For Ellen too, I think he has to come to terms with the fact of his idea of the way that things should be is not the way that they need to be.
Yeah. He's got kind of the pearly white glasses, like, you know, this ideal utopia that I'm going to build.
Absolutely, that hippie mentality almost, but it still needs to have structure.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I'm going to get over here, but he's like, there are no steps.
Mm-hmm.
And people who have lived in that type of, you know, like you were saying with the refrigerator, you know it's there. And so they needed those steps to be able to break themselves away from it. And Ellen wanted that just to happen instantly, and that's just going to cause more trauma than anything.
Absolutely.
It also comes down to the way the Lord Ruler, the way he ruled, right? He purposefully had this rigid caste system, but even within those caste systems, he always had them at each other's throats.
Yep.
So the nobility was always, you know, they were on the one hand, they're having these fucking Bridgerton balls all the time.
Yeah.
You know, which we know that those are all just pomp, right? Those are all just social status and everything else. And then they all have these schemes where they're trying to, you know, become the Lord Ruler's favorite house, blah, blah, blah. And even the ones that did rise to power, you know, the Lord Ruler kept them in check. He knew that if any of them rose up, he would have to be in a position to strike them down at any point in time. So you also have the fact that he had a very rigid set of laws for the nobility, which included don't fuck the sky. And we know that they broke those laws often.
Whenever there's any law that says don't fuck these people, it never works.
It's a target on the back of these people.
Never works.
Yeah, I mean, to the point where their lives were at risk, you know. and they're all trying to have, freaking allomantic children.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you gotta hide them if you have them the wrong way.
Yeah.
So, and then just the idea that if you take out what's at the top of this mountain of society, that everybody's just gonna go, okay, well, you're the guy now. Right. What do you want to do? And it's like, once again, the nobility too. They also were, had their way of life set. Unfortunately, one of those ways of life was having the Scots to rule over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like there's no, like, I'm sure that people can read this trilogy and they can formulate their own kind of treatment as to how they would handle things, if they were in Ellen's shoes. But ultimately, like, there's no easy solution with any of this stuff. Like, there's going to be people who are going to have to. There's going to be some suffering still. There's going to be pain and anguish still. There's going to be people who disagree, people who rise up. And I mean, so that there's no happily ever after type solution. So I mean, I do give Ellen a break. I think that he definitely had his hands full, and I think that the guy, even in this book, he does the best he can. And I mean, for what it's worth, he never gives up. And there's times where like he may feel like he wants to, but then like most men, he postures and it's like, I'm gonna figure this shit out. And then that's kind of what he does up until the end almost.
I'm glad that you bring that up because I love the gender flip here. I love that Vin is the bodyguard, the protector.
Right.
And she's always worried about Ellen, what's going to happen to him. And I love that that's flipped because that is normally the other way around in pretty much every story ever, right? I mean, we always got to go back to Lord of the Rings. Aragorn is out here. He's like the most badass person ever. The only way you can really rock him is he's worried about Arwen, right? And, we flip that here where, Ellen is like the idea person here, but Vin, nobody wants to fuck with Vin, right? Number one, she will kill you in very creative ways. But before you even get to that, everyone knows she defeated an unkillable god, basically, to these people. Yeah. Someone who had ruled for 1,000 years and that no one could even begin to mess with. And she killed him. So nobody wants to mess with her.
No. Right.
So she's got that element of fear, but also Ellen doesn't want that to be the way he rules.
Exactly.
He doesn't want to rule by fear because that's the way the Lord Ruler ruled.
Exactly. Yeah. She's there and he wants to use her appropriately, but it's also like, I don't want like, hey, this is my idea. And if you don't want to go along with it, here's my girlfriend. She's a superhero. She's going to come and talk to you.
She doesn't talk nice.
There may or may not be sharp objects involved in said discussion.
I can see her just like flipping a coin.
In the corner of the room.
Yeah, that's all she has to do.
Do you want to talk to her or do you want to talk to me?
She can kill you with just about anything in here. With her mind.
And I love where we get Vin at the beginning to there. That is such a really great story arc, if you would. The Vin that we first meet in The Final Empire.
Yeah.
To this Vin that we are seeing in Well of Ascension is an awesome story arc, in my opinion, and one of my favorites that Sanderson does. While I do prefer the Stormlight to Mistborn, Vin's character really is beautifully done.
I think that's why I tend to start people on Mistborn. Mm-hmm. It's very easy to fall in love with Vin as a main protagonist.
Yeah.
She's interesting. Kelsier's interesting. I think that she's very easy to get into. Whereas with, I think, Way of Kings, so many of the tropes we come to expect about a fantasy novel, it's not that he sets them up and flips them on their head. They're already flipped. Mm-hmm. Like, you're like, I mean, you could finish Way of Kings and go, who the fuck is the main character in this book? Because there really
There's
isn't
4.
one. There's really 3, 4. I mean, 9 now.
Yeah.
They're really other than maybe at the very beginning, you would think it's Kaladin.
P.S.
Still.
Are you
Yeah, still.
going to read Way of Kings, good
Yeah,
sir?
actually, I started that like right before the hurricane.
No, Warbreaker. That's
That was
Warbreaker.
Warbreaker, yeah.
He's on
Warbreaker is
Yeah.
one of my absolute favorite books ever.
But yeah, Way of Kings, yeah, that was also on the list.
Yeah.
Okay, so
He
you
has
plan to read them.
I have his
Got
loaner
it.
copies.
Yeah, he's got my loaner Way of Kings with
Way
where my
of
cat has
Kings
chewed
and
the
Words of Radiance have special places
Kelsier?
in my heart.
Mulder, actually.
Mulder. Oh.
That book predates Kelsier.
Oh.
I don't think my cat Kelsier, not the character.
For clarification's sake.
Yeah, clarification. I get that a lot when people read the first one. They're like, "He died. You named your cat after this guy, and he got killed in the 1st book." Yeah, well, just stick around. So,
Just wait.
I agree with you though. Vin, I love her arc through all of this, right? Even to the fucking heartbreaking Secret History, the one scene that she had in Secret History. It's just tremendous to see somebody go from this very sort of meek, nobody notices them. They're thoroughly.
She doesn't want to be noticed. She wants to fade in,
Yeah.
so that nobody can hurt her.
Yeah, I mean, her whole life is trauma, right? I mean, everyone abuses her in her life. Her only options are to be alone or to be tormented, essentially, in some way, or used.
Right.
And to see her go from that to someone who is so at peace with things to make the decision that she makes at the very end of Secret History, I think that is an incredible arc. And I think that most authors would have struggled to recreate such a thing for this type of character.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that watching Vin's whole arc is it's pretty interesting, right? Because some of the things that she goes through, it's like conventional storytelling, but almost in like an unconventional manner. So, like you mentioned earlier about how she's the one who's in the bodyguard position, and Ellen is the one who is trying to use diplomacy to a degree. But then you see some of the challenges that she faces, and even in this one, and I'm sure we'll talk about Zane. I can't really hear your guys' can't really hear your guys' thoughts on that character. If there's anything about Well of Ascension that I think could have been improved upon from my reading, maybe it would have been some of the Zane stuff. But
I felt like they were. I agree with you. I felt like they were reaching for that, and it didn't need to be.
I personally know a Zane shipper.
Oh!
Yeah.
Personally know them?
Yeah. Shout out to you, Leah. If you're
now you know 2. I'm joking.
if you're watching or
So
listening.
I'd be like, what? No.
No!
So Ace, we need to talk. That's not good.
No, my friend Leah, who's probably listening to this, she's a Zane shipper. And I have
I would
heard.
love to talk to that person and find out why.
I have heard some of their reasonings, and some of them are quite solid. I still disagree with them. I do think that Zane. We can go ahead and talk about Zane since we're here.
Okay.
I do think that it's interesting the way that Zane, if he were not as we find out in the 3rd book, right? He's being controlled by Ruin.
Yeah.
We don't have that information in Well of Ascension. When we read it the first time, we think he's just batshit.
Yeah.
But he does have a god of destruction whispering into his head all the time. I think if Zane were not nuts and weren't spiked, that maybe he would have been a better fit for Vin, because there is that side of it that he's a Mistborn. He understands what it's like to, be able to soar above the clouds and kill people with a thought, and just be this powerful, sort of icon. He knows what it's like he grew up in a wealthy family, but he wasn't one of the privileged ones.
Right.
He was thoroughly abused by his dad.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I just thought it was I don't know, it felt unnecessary and dare I say a little contrived that he and Ellen are siblings. You know, it's just like it did because there is really no payoff for that. First of all,
right?
And you know, I guess I didn't really see the necessity behind that. It's a little thing, and you know, it is what it is, just whatever. But things like that, in a way, almost make your world feel smaller in a way that's not necessary. He could have just been
a random dude.
Yeah.
No, I see that, and also I could never ship Vin and Zane because they are both Mistborn, and they have gone through too many similar things, and they are too similar. I feel like the balance is what you need. Like, you can't have two fiery, crazed Mistborn people. Literally, the room will burn. Like, come on. Like, you need that person that's like, and we're going to put the silver down, and we're going to breathe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's almost the Superman thing, right? Like, why he takes Lois up and flies with him is because that's something that, like, most people can't experience.
Yeah.
And so, you know, he takes her up and flies through the sky with her, and, you know, hopefully they, you know...
he doesn't drop her.
Yeah, you know, I can show you the world.
Right.
And, you know, that's why they do that.
Yeah.
And it's similar here where it's like these like crazy like missions that they go out on, adventures that they go out on together. She can't take Ellen on any of those. Number one, he's the king, right?
Yeah.
And she's like his super powered Secret Service. So even if he was capable of going on these things, he can't. But then, on top of that, like, he doesn't have any of these abilities. They come from entirely different backgrounds, whereas her and Zane, their background's kind of similar. Mm-hmm. I do agree with you on the brothers thing. There was no need for that. There's no payoff for it. It doesn't go away. He could have been from another noble family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would have been fine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we get more noble families in Era 2 than we get in Era 1. And there's not even a caste system anymore, so...
Are you planning to read Era 2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll get there.
I'm not going to send him down that. I'm going to take him the route that I recommend for everybody now, which is after this, Warbreaker, Way of Kings, and then all through Stormlight, and then back to Era 2.
Yeah. It's metal with like guns. So they have like
Wild West.
I can control metal and I have a gun.
That sounds pretty awesome though.
It is very cool.
And I understand that you guys all brought guns, but I can control metal. So, I mean, you're familiar with... You've probably heard some things about that before in other media, so...
It is vaguely familiar, I guess.
Yeah.
People who can control metal,
Right. Yeah.
Here and there.
So, I would be remiss if we didn't talk about Sazed next.
Oh, man.
The journey he goes on here.
Yeah.
This is his... You know, in the first book, he kind of also is in that mentor role the whole time. Mm-hmm. You meet him. You get to know him a little bit. He was my favorite from Jump. Okay. He was always my favorite character. So the way Hero of Ages ends, I was very happy about. But he suffers in this book. I mean, This book is his trauma.
Yeah, it is.
You know?
And, you know, it's like, he goes through so much, right? And, you know, like, there's the old adage, I'm going to fuck it up, and that's really ironic for what the adage is. But it's something like, it's better to have loved and lost than to never loved at all. And I think he would probably disagree in this book. You know, so, I mean, he goes through it, and because of that, he has a crisis of faith. And when that is your bedrock and it has been cracked and it's just disintegrated, not only, you know, did he lose the woman that he loved, he lost all of his faiths, but also along with that, some of the people also have to recognize that he also loses a piece of his identity as well, maybe his whole identity.
Yeah, because in the beginning, like, he's such a religious-based person. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That and if that's not part of you, then
I could not imagine, like, I have friends who are religious-based people. You know, obviously they're not close friends because I feel like it's hard, you know what I mean, when you're not and they are. If you were to rip that religion from them, I feel like some of them would just absolutely crumble and break as humans.
Oh, yeah.
Because they would have nothing to stand on.
Right.
And he goes through that.
It's interesting, too, that on the, like, societal side of things, you know, one of the things that Sazed and Kelsey are always talked about is, like, Sazed had all this knowledge in his metal minds for, like, okay, you know, well, whenever we bring the Lorula down, we're going to, like, remake society, and I'm going to teach people all these things that I've been storing up. And the scholar just kind of like, whatever, man, you got some food? Like,
can we eat any of that knowledge? Yeah.
And he's kind of like, you know, he's a scholar, you know, and he's taken aback by this, like, the fact that these common people kind of reject this knowledge that he's trying to get to them. Because they're like, we have more important
Bigger
shit
problems.
to worry about than your philosophical nonsense that you have stored in your little rings.
Yeah. We can't eat philosophy. We can't survive on philosophy.
Yeah.
So he's now greeted with the warmest welcome.
Yeah, I mean, and he's shocked by that. You know, he kind of, same way Ellen kind of, you know, thought this was going to be one way and then found out it really wasn't. Sage, it's kind of similar.
Right.
You know? I don't have him listed here, but I personally loved the Sazed and Marsh buddy cop stuff in this.
Well, I love Marsh as a character, and I think that we talked about that. Even though he is who he is, I remember me telling you, I was like, I hope Marsh doesn't die.
I'm like, I mean, he probably would like to.
No, absolutely.
Speaking of characters who suffer, you know,
My boy.
I mean, honestly, from jump, you know, like ever since he agrees in some capacity to work with Kelsier in the Final Empire, that was kind of the beginning of the end for him in terms of living a somewhat comfortable life. I use quotation marks around comfortable, but you get the point.
They say the spikes don't hurt after. Like, but I'm like, they hurt during.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that, apparently, according to this, like, once it's, like, in there good, it's fine.
I just got, like, you and I did the same thing.
It's just immediate. It's just immediate. Oh my gosh.
And he has so many.
He's got so many spikes. Yeah.
Like, I mean, Ruin can just fucking harbinger, like, assuming direct control anytime he wants. That's a Mass Effect reference. Yeah, I mean, you feel bad for him, though. But in this book, though, we don't know that. We still don't know anything about hemalurgy.
Right.
So, I think this, you know, in this book, we're just kind of like, what the fuck is happening with, you know, what's going on with Marsh?
What's wrong with Marsh? I thought he was dying. I thought he was, like, sick with, like, and dying.
I love Marsh. I forget that him and Kelsey are brothers sometimes. Because they have such different, their personalities are just so...
very different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Poor Marsh. He goes through some things, you know, and then he goes through some more things, but at the end of the day, he goes through some more shit.
Just to wrap it up with going through some more stuff.
Oh, yeah. I love it, though. I thought that the Marsh stuff was... in Hero of Ages, I didn't really know what to make... not Hero of Ages, but in Well of Accension, I didn't really know what to make of Marsh, honestly, until, like, the end of the book, and we get that showdown between he and Sazed. And that was... That really kind of threw me off, just because I couldn't really get a good read on Marsh at that point.
Yeah.
That shit hurt me.
Yeah.
He tried to kill my boy.
Damn near succeeded.
Yeah, when I read that shit, I was like, oh, don't do this.
I like both of you.
And I thought...
Why is this happening?
I thought Sazed was going to die.
Well, see, that's interesting, right? Like, I think about it, and at least from my POV, Sazed is... He has been in more danger of dying from my reader's perspective more than maybe any other character. You know, I look in Final Empire when he goes to try to rescue Vin. I thought potentially he could have died there.
Yeah. Hollywood would be like, yeah, we kill him right here.
Right.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna die there.
I think about the fight at the end of Well of Ascension. It's like, oh yeah, this could happen here. Before that, I thought about the fight with the Koloss. I was like, well, it could definitely happen here.
Yeah.
And there's just so many moments where I feel he could have, but wow, not only does he not, but you know, we'll get there.
I love that moment where he defends the gates by himself.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, that moment got referenced very clearly in a later book. Well, in Lost Metal. And I lost my shit when that happened. Like that was such a powerful moment for me to have that like kind of reference, because without spoiling it here, there's a moment where a certain character is like, they're basically ready to give up. And you gotta think, this is God to them.
Yeah.
It's like, what could you possibly know about this? And he kind of shows them, like the image of him, like basically like bent down at this gate, like covered in like all these bodies where he's holding in himself. And it's such a like powerful thing where he uses that to get them to keep going.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it like just. It's not just that there's little Easter eggs, but it's just that they're so like potent, right? That they're so appropriately used.
I feel like I need to do a full Mistborn, almost reread through like Era 1 through Era 2 with Lost Metal, because I did miss so many of the Easter eggs, because I do read so many books.
Yeah.
That like I had read 85 books in between the end of Era 2 and Lost Metal, waiting for it to come out and stuff, that like I feel like there were just eggs that I missed. You know what I mean?
You don't have to list them out for me, but I'm just curious. Do you have like a list of 10 books that you would take with you if you were stranded on the island?
Absolutely.
Okay. I figured you did. I just wanted to.
I have. It would be tough to narrow it to 10.
I was like 10.
Typically, I do a top 5 for every year.
Oh, okay.
And those top 5 will fluctuate throughout the year. You know what I mean?
Right.
Especially as new releases come out. I have a favorite book of this year right now. And then he actually commented on my Facebook where I said, "This is my book of 2024." He was like, "So far," because Winds of Truth comes out in December.
Right.
December 6th, actually. So he's like, "So far," because they will shift. But I typically have a 5 of the year, and then I have a 10 that are like my holy grail, and they're the craziest. I don't know about you, but the spectrum of books. It's like there's fantasy in there, there's urban romance in there, there's rom-com in there, there's historical fiction in there, you know what I mean? And it just, I feel like it's my quintessential best of that genre.
Yeah.
And then I just have like a top 10 that's kind of miscellaneous through there.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. You can only put one Cosmere book in there. Which one is it?
I'm gonna be bluntly honest with you. I only have 2 Cosmeres.
I figured
my
it was.
top 10.
I figured 2 or 3. Yeah.
Yeah, it was almost 3, but one of them got bumped just a little bit. So I have 2 Cosmeres in my top 10 of all time books.
But if you could only put one.
If I could only put one, I'd have to go with Tress, because that's like my number 1. But Warbreaker is a very close second for me. And I just love it so much. And then Words of Radiance would be my number 3, that could be in that 10, but sometimes fluctuates, but sometimes goes back up. And then Way of Kings would be number 4. Like, I could go down the list, okay? However...
We have. You can find
we have.
that on
I know,
YouTube.
I watched it. That's what made me read Lost Metal, remember?
Yeah.
I texted you and I was like, I still haven't picked up Lost Metal. I own it. I'm pissed. I have to read it. And I did after watching your ranking.
I'm gonna hit you with the same question.
What?
You can only take one Cosmere book.
In
Only
your top
one?
10.
Just one for a top 10.
Way of Kings.
That's not surprising, actually.
I was like,
I do love, but I'm sorry, the scene on your shirt edges.
well,
Words of Radiance.
you gotta
just a
have
little bit
sunglasses and a skateboard to make it truly iconic.
Oh,
There.
But I do love, like, the Words of Radiance, the combining of everybody to the whole party arrives at the same destination.
The look on Ace's face right now is amazing. She's like, you gotta have sunglasses and a skateboard.
Yeah, and I'm like,
So good.
That's actually a Reddit reference.
okay.
So the scene on my shirt is this incredibly powerful, probably one of the best scenes ever written.
Like,
in
Baron
anything.
wants it tattooed on his body.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought that maybe Sanderson just lost his shit.
No.
No.
And there's an alternate reality that someone animated where it's like the character that says the line does it, but they have on shades and they're on a skateboard.
And then they drop in.
Yeah.
they do.
I haven't seen the thing, but I can just see it
It's
now.
so good.
Yeah. So you need sunglasses and a skateboard to make it truly iconic.
And we talk about it all the time.
Oh, that's amazing. Is it like a video?
I think it's just a
a meme.
well done meme. Yeah.
Yeah.
Will you find it? Will you send it to
I
me?
will find it
Okay,
and we'll
thank
send
you.
it to you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Mistborn would not. None of these novels would be in my top 10 of all time.
Okay.
Well, Lost Metal is actually the reason that we don't send people down the Scadrial only path. Number one, because I read them that way. Like when Bands of Mourning was the only one that was out, I read them that way, and I feel like when you've spent 8 fucking books on Scadrial, it is harder to go, oh, well, let's see what they're doing over here. And then you got to go all the way back to the very beginning.
Yep.
You're now 300 years into Mistborn, and now you got to go all the way back to the very beginning. And it's like, okay, this dude, all right, cool, the wind is talking. Like, what is happening here? And then you have to start over, and I think it's hard for people. Also, Lost Metal spoils the fuck out of everything. So, like, that being said, now we always, like, at least I do, and Dylan too, always send people down the, like, you get to here, and then you got to jump over and do some Warbreaker and do some Stormlight,
When you finish Warbreaker, let me. Well, hopefully we'll do a review of it because I'd love to know what you think of it. It's honestly very. It would be in my top 10.
All right.
There's 2 Cosmere, but you said I could only pick one. But there's 2 Cosmere novels in my top 10.
We have wildly differing opinions on Warbreaker over here on this side of the table.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
And so I want to know what.
Okay.
I remember that.
I like
I
Warbreaker.
was gonna say I remember that you liked it, but you weren't like passionate about it. So I want to see what side of the table you fall on.
That's gonna be interesting then. Now, I'm very curious.
It is kind of standalone, but there are definitely once again characters and especially inanimate objects that will show up in other places.
You mean objects that should have remained in anime.
Exactly. That will show up in other places.
I have that shirt too.
Tell you, if I could get my hair to do that, that'd be so nice.
I love it. Oh God, it's just the atmosphere. How far into it are you?
Oh, not very.
Okay, and
It's like hanging out with Light Song at the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah, just a little bit past that. But
I love Light Song. He's great.
I fucking love Light Song. Like,
Yes, fantastic.
that they made him sound like Thor in the dramatized audio hurts my soul.
I have not listened to the audio of it.
I've listened to a little bit of the audio, and he does in fact sound like Thor.
So they have a dramatized of that one where like everybody voices, and I don't like it.
I just didn't picture him as like a Thor voice. I just know.
The only dramatized audio of Sanderson that I've listened to is the
Elantris?
no, the Asian-based one. I'm sorry, it's
Yumi.
nope,
No?
There's not a dramatized for Yumi.
no.
That would be lovely.
Oh, you're talking about Emperor's Soul?
Yes, and it was
Okay.
amazing.
I have not listened to that either.
Oh my God, you have to listen to Emperor's Soul.
Okay.
It is amazing
Okay.
the way that they did it. It's one of my top Sandersons, and I think it's just because of that dramatized.
Emperor's Soul's amazing. Here's some ASMR.
But I think it's because of that dramatized, the way that I consumed it was, did I tell you to do it in the dramatized? Did you do that?
She hasn't yet.
Okay.
I still haven't read it.
It's so good at the dramatized audio. It's...
I will add,
brilliant.
since to bring us back to Mistborn,
Yeah, sorry.
Since we're an hour and 20 into this and we're still in the first book, the Secret History won't take that long though. So, but yeah, I mean, to me, like Mistborn is the ideal way to start. But like, if people are like, oh, I don't want to risk jumping into like a 500-page novel like right off the rip, that book is exactly where you want to go.
Want to be a quick read? Emperor's Soul is so good. It's a short one.
Emperor's Soul, short novella. It's a perfect way to get like, this is why Brandon Sanderson fucking rocks, and get out, And one of the characters from Emperor's Soul, like the main character, like does come back in a very major way. So like, it's still very relevant.
Yep.
Yeah, that planet is on the don't even vacation here of Cosmere planets.
Actually, I still think that's Tress's planet. I don't want to go there at all.
No, Tress's planet, fucking Canticle. No, Lumar is the Tress planet.
No, I don't want to go to Lumar.
No, this is the best place to live. Like even during like Hero of Ages, this is like the best place in the Cosmere to live.
Wow.
Yeah, it's true. The planet is
bad.
not actively trying to kill you, just the people on it.
Yeah.
And a demigod.
And there's,
Yeah, but like the ground doesn't want to do anything to you.
Yeah, just the air. But and you're genetically modified to be able to breathe the ash. So
it works out. It's fine.
Fine. Yeah, that's it's a relative term, but all right.
Yeah,
I'll take it. Yep.
Let's kind of jump into another like kind of a plot point here from Well of Ascension. Tensoon, right? The reveal. I thought this was this is the highlight of the book to me, is the Tensoon reveal. Is this twist where we get the establishment in the first one of what a Kandra is and what they're capable of.
Yeah.
Never in a million years did we assume that, okay, well, what if one Kandra just killed another and took their place?
Right.
And you think this whole time that they are this loyal servant to you. I thought this was a great reveal. What did you guys think?
Yeah, it kind of surprised me. I was like, I should have known that. It was one of those moments where I just put the book down and I was like, well, damn it, let me go back and look at some other things. It's one of those moments where you look back and you're like, okay, context clues, I need to find them. Where are they?
Yeah, because that's like my least favorite thing. And there were context clues for this. Mm-hmm. But my least favorite thing is, and they sometimes do it in thrillers, where all of a sudden it's like, but the murderer is really her long-lost sister! And there's no context clues up leading to this. And it should have been another obvious person, but the author just wants to throw you off with that I didn't see the ending coming, so she pulls something out of her ass.
I just read a book like that, and I was bitching to him about it. I was like, I was on like a really big whodunit kick, and this one got me out of it.
Yeah, because you were like, no, the fuck they didn't. Okay, you pulled that out of somewhere. But and so when I first read that, I was like, what? But then there is context clues leading up to it.
I like that when you can go back and you can be like, oh.
Yes, I remember this thing now.
That is an example of a good twist. Like you never want to see a writer just pull something out of nowhere and be like, ha, this is the twist, because that just shows you never had faith in whatever
your reader that you could trick them. You didn't have faith in that because it's hard to do and make it make sense and give the breadcrumb.
They didn't have faith in themselves either. They didn't have faith in their ability to write a compelling twist that is lingering in plain sight, but also knowing that most people would never pick up on it. The thing that makes like the Osur Tensoon twist so good is, for one, we as the readers never learned that much about Osur. We don't.
Yeah.
I mean, we just don't.
I never remember his name, so thank you.
And so when he starts speaking up more in Well of Ascension, I never thought to question him with all the questions he's asking and all the things that he's doing. I'm just thinking that, okay, this is just how the Conjure act, I'm assuming. All right. But then we get the reveal, and then it makes a whole lot of sense. That's not even Osor.
Yeah.
And so that was a good reveal. If for no other reason, they do set it up to make us think that it's one of the crew who is the traitor, instead of it being the actual Conjurer himself. I enjoyed it.
It's we hired a spy, but it's not them.
Yeah.
It's like we hired the perfect spy, but it's got to be somebody on our crew.
And like the cool thing about that twist, or at least like the novel idea of this version of the twist, was that from a very early point in the book, we realized, okay, so not only is there a spy amongst us, but whoever they're impersonating is dead. And so you're having to kind of suss out who could it be, and also, oh man, who's dead.
Right, exactly. Who is the Conjure taken?
Yeah, it's not a scroll thing where they could be in a basement somewhere. No, like they're
it's
gone.
not like in HP where he could be in a locked cabinet.
Yeah, no, you have been consumed.
Yeah,
possibly violently. Talking about the war here. This is actually a low point of the book for me. I get 100% that these big nobles and their armies would be out here grandstanding and trying to take the Lord Ruler's place. We have all this power. To me, I think I was always interested in Vin, Elend, and the Well. I just wanted Vin to get to the Well, and I kind of, as a reader, I think I viewed all of this shit as a distraction. I get it, why it's there, but I think for me, I was just like, I want to know more about the Well. I want to know more about, like, Plot A. I want to know what Sazed and Buddy Cop Marsh are doing. And this, to me, was kind of like the C plot. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it just did not hold me the way everything else did.
That's fair.
So I think I probably would have actually marked it against the book had they not put such emphasis on it, because the Lord Ruler dying changes everything.
Yes.
Not just for, the greater sense of it, but it would be like, I had to put this out into the ether, but like if a sitting president was to get assassinated, that changes everything. If especially someone in his position, there's going to be people vying for the power. There's going to be people vying for new laws or regulations. There's going to be people vying for all of this stuff, and so like if there weren't that much conflict, then I would have been. I don't know. It would have thrown me off. I also am very much interested in obviously what is the main plot, but never stop world building.
Right. And he doesn't.
Yeah.
He does never stop that. I'm very interested in what you're writing. But I agree. Like, yeah. He does never stop. Like, and this is part of that. Yeah. And it's kind of what you said earlier about you would make your world feel smaller if that weren't the case.
Right.
No, I agree with, this needed to happen, right? You have all these people that have been under the Lord Ruler's heel for all this time, all these, like, self-important people. So naturally, they're going to show up. I mean, they're going to try to scavenge the final empire, right? It's theirs. So I get it. And there were some very interesting kind of reveals from this. I think my favorite part of it is when Lekal shows up with the Kolos army, and we find out in book 3 what the secret of controlling them is. This dude does not know it.
No, he's trying.
Do we get introduced to Arianne here in this book, or is that in the 3rd book? Does anybody remember?
That's in the 3rd book.
Okay, because I know she's Ket's daughter.
Yep.
But I just could never remember if it's here.
I am fairly confident that's in the 3rd.
You're the one who's read it the most recently, so I'd go off of your opinion.
Yeah, no pressure.
So, one thing I love about this book is the ending. So let's talk about the ending at the Well.
Yeah.
So, going into the Well, the the whole time we've got this kind of mist spirit, which, as we find out later, like, yeah, sometimes it was Ruin fucking with people. Other times, it was Kelsier. Yeah. And, going into the ending here, we actually find out, like, Vin thinks, okay, the well's got to be up in the mountains somewhere. And as we find out, like, oh, actually, if you were going to hide this thing, just put it in your house. Right. Then you can just visit whenever you want, and you don't have to worry about anybody messing with it. And so we find out that, the well is actually inside of Creedickshaw, and Vin goes there, and throughout this whole, the whole book, she believes that the key to this, to fixing whatever this is to give up this power. Because throughout history, anyone who's ever, gotten the power from the well has used it. And so then it just kind of recollects every year. I think it's every 100 years, or maybe it's every 1,000. It's one of those. And because, as we come to find out later, Sazed took the rubbing of the metal sheet early on in the book when at the Inquisitor stronghold, when he and Marsh go and visit it. As we know, Ruin, if it's not etched in metal, Ruin can change it. And so Ruin changed that prophecy to basically say that they had to give the power up, which would in fact free him. We find out kind of in the background that Kelsier also knows this and is trying to work against them. But Sazed figures it out, and he goes to try to stop Vin from doing it, and then this is where we get the showdown where Marsh tries to stop him. Did anybody think that Sazed or Marsh wasn't going to make it out here?
I mean, I was worried about Sazed.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly where my mind was at during this fight, like who I thought was going to make it out. I think once I realized, okay, I don't think that there's any potential help that can arrive on time.
Yeah.
That's when I started to really worry for Sazed, because he was more or less tapped out by that point, and Marsh was, hell, if anything, Marsh was just getting better.
Yeah.
So I, again, Sazed at this point, if he wasn't already, then by this point he was definitely a fan favorite, and I could have totally seen him dying right here.
Especially after the way that the Final Empire ended. I was like, I really thought he was going to Kelsier Sazed. I really did. Because this was also like my intro to Sanderson's work. So I was like, maybe this is just what he does.
This is what he does, yeah.
Maybe he's just a Grey's Anatomy writer. And that's what the fuck the theming is. Don't love something too much. You know what I mean? He's teaching lessons. But I definitely remember being worried for Sazed.
George R.R. Martin. Oh, you love this character?
Exactly. That's another one. That's a great example. Don't like a character too fucking much.
Also, if it was George R.R. Martin, we still wouldn't have Hero of Ages.
God, don't talk about it.
He'd be 1,100 pages into that shit, 20 years later.
Still think it's written. He just doesn't want to release it because he knows everybody hates it.
Same. Yeah, same.
How dare the two of you?
Yeah, fuck him, man. His ending.
Oh, well, shit. Okay.
It doesn't make sense.
Former author George R.R. Martin. I'll say that I loved this ending, especially the mist spirit, which we, as we find out, it's Kelsier. Vin goes to grab the power and he stabs Elend.
Yeah.
Hoping that, okay, faced with this overwhelming decision, right? Like, she's going to use this power to heal him, to save him.
Yeah.
And not release it and free this fucking thing, whatever it is. And she doesn't. She releases it anyway. I read a reference to this very recently that was amazing. I cannot talk about it, but it was awesome. I'll just say that. What did you guys think about this ending?
I think it stuck true to what Vin believed.
I agree.
And so, even though she was basically in love with Ellen and she didn't want to have to let him go, she was sticking to what her values were.
It was the most Vin decision she could have made.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, anything else would have been non-Vin.
Yeah.
Fortunately, there was Lerasium at the well. And we kind of get that, little reveal at the very end, because you're thinking all right, Ellen's done.
Yeah.
And then we don't know it's Lerasium yet. As a matter of fact, I think with the discussion you and I were having, they never call it that in these books. I don't think you learn what it actually is called until Secret History.
Yeah, because that's not in any of the three main trilogy books.
Yeah. No. And it is, in fact, a god metal. And you consume it, it turns you into a full Mistborn. And none of that diluted shit. You are right. Full power,
Yeah, this ain't cut with no baking powder,
No. No. This is Omega level
right.
Mistborn.
Yeah. Yeah. I really liked what they did here, but in retrospect, there's nothing funny about this, but it made me laugh. Kelsier, causing Ellen to get stabbed. To me, that's just hilarious every time I think about it. I mean, just because, even though, this wasn't, what he wanted to do, it's something that Kelsier probably also would have wanted to do at some point.
Oh, absolutely. He'd have been like, that damn kid keeps fucking with Vin.
Yeah.
I told her not to let her guard down.
Right.
Let me just...
He was like, why is he still around?
Right, he's still here?
Stab him. I'm going to stab him.
I got rid of this cat.
But also, it felt like Ruin at this point was 2-0, right? So at the end of Final Empire, it was actually a step in the right direction for him that the Lord Ruler is off the map.
Yeah.
And I bet, from our POV and from Vin's POV, we need to get rid of the Lord Ruler. Come to find out, that just leads to something worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we get here, and it's the hero's dilemma. Do you make the sacrifice play and give up the thing that you want, or do you do the selfish thing, but from your understanding at that time, potentially doom everything else? And so she makes the heroic decision, and she decides to let Ellen go. That was also a terrible decision.
Yeah.
And so Ruin's just out here 2-0. He's out here like 96 Jordan out here just hitting buckets.
Mm-hmm. There was no right decision there.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was maybe there was a right decision. There was no good decision though.
Yeah.
I mean, I think she made the right decision. I mean,
I agree.
It's definitely the most selfless thing that anybody in this story has done, I would say. But, I mean, was it the best overall? No, definitely not.
Yeah.
But, on the other hand, it's do you keep Ruin in here forever? Because preservation is dying, basically, at this point.
Right.
And Ruin is just getting stronger, essentially. So, at some point, this was going to happen. Whether it was now, 5,000 years from now, whatever.
Yeah, it was bound to happen.
Yeah. And, I mean, we already know that Ruin had some level of control. I mean, we were going to find out in the next book that, the Lord Ruler was actively doing everything they could to kind of keep Ruin at bay.
Yeah.
So, we kind of find out what he meant at the end of Final Empire when he's like, oh, well, you've basically doomed yourself by killing me. So.
Right, it's the devil you know rather than the devil you don't know type of thing.
Yeah. We talk about magic systems in this a lot.
If I ever have an arch nemesis, I want to say that if he ever kills me. Just to fuck with him, You fool, you don't realize what you've done. And,
And just forever they're going to be like, what did he mean?
It's a great line. It's a great line.
We talk about magic systems in these books a lot. Obviously, the first book is very focused on allomancy, In this book, we do get some more Allomancy stuff. I think this is where they introduced Duralumin in this book, where you could do like the full pushes.
Right.
But this is the book where we kind of get to see more Furikemi. We get to see Seiza do a lot more with it, and then we meet, of course, Tinwell, and she can do it as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's probably the least explored out of the three so far in these books.
Oh, I was about to say.
Yeah, in these books.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have we touched on the little passages at the beginning of the chapter?
The epigraphs.
Yeah.
We have not. So, I liked the epigraphs in Mistborn a lot, in the first one, with the logbook. In this one, it's the rubbing.
Yeah.
You kind of find out, isn't this one Alindi? Oh, no. Alindi in the first one.
Yeah.
It's Khan in the second one? Is that his name? You've read it
I know.
most recently.
I don't remember.
And that's okay. It's okay, Ace.
That's all right. That's all right.
We have the
We have the
technology.
compromise.
We have the technology.
We're talking
about
about
that, Kay.
We're talking about Furikemi. We're talking about Furikemi. I'm gonna consult the compromise.
Absolutely.
You saying that it's okay really makes it feel like it's not okay.
No,
Like I was pretty okay with it until you looked at me and said it's okay, and now I feel like it's not okay.
It is absolutely okay.
I feel very guilty now for not remembering.
It's okay.
Are you-
It's not just okay.
Are you gentle parenting my co-host? Yes, this book's epigraphs are of the inscription left by Quan. Describing the ascension of the Lord Ruler. So,
There we go.
yeah. So it's basically from, like, I guess Alindi's, like, mentor that was trying to stop him. That basically sent Rashik after him, being the Lord Ruler.
Yeah.
Out of the three books, the epigraphs here were the least interesting to me, but I did think they were still good.
Yeah. I just couldn't remember if we had touched on what this book's epigraphs were.
Just because Quan is not a character that we ever will care about ever again.
Yeah.
I mean, they talked about him in the logbook briefly. We know who he is. But
Right.
it's just like, okay, this is cool info, but I don't care about the narrator. You're here to kind of exposit. So I still like them. I always love the epigraphs. Because it's a thing, this is a through line through all of his works, basically.
Okay.
At least all the main series, like all the Mistborn and all of the
Stormlight.
the Stormlight. But out of the three, I think they're the least interesting.
I would agree.
You know that I think that tracks. I mean, hell, I couldn't even remember his name. You know, and then
Right.
and then I got shamed for not being able to remember his name.
I didn't shame you.
I didn't
said
even
it was
mention
okay.
your name. So it's crazy you're being so defensive.
You're a little defensive over there.
Okay, I'll let it go.
Does anybody have anything from before we move on to Hero?
I mean, yeah. So we mentioned Tindwell and her death, and what you guys think about her contribution to the story?
I love her. Yeah, I think that she is probably like a little underrated, but she's very, very much essential, especially for Ellen.
Yeah, for both Ellen and Caesar, right? I was surprised that she died. Actually, I thought that she was gonna make it, at least a little bit longer, at least to book 3. Shows what I know. And this is when we really first get to see the Koloss as well.
Huh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Koloss are such like a Cronenberg and we find out how they're made in the third one.
The third one, yeah.
Of course, that episode of How It's Made got left on the cutting room floor. It was probably a little too gross for Discovery or wherever they air that now. But
Blah.
I have a sticker. I'm sure it came from you, a Koloss sticker.
the Koloss Head Munching Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was from me. That's Brandon's birthday. Is Koloss Head Munching Day.
That's a hell of a birthday.
It's interesting, right? We found out that the Lord Ruler had, he had, obviously, the kind of story here is that they all think he's like this piece of godhood, but in all reality, when he had the power, he simply made himself a full Mistborn and full fearochemist.
Yeah.
And or he already was a fearochemist because he was Terrace. And so, you know, they all kind of assumed that he was just God mode this whole time, but really, you only have the power for a little bit and then you use it up. Mm-hmm. And then the way that your mind expands, though, the knowledge that you get of the Cosmere in general, like, that's there. But obviously, like, it's not like you're ascending. Like, you're not picking up a shard. Right. Because I would think that if you actually picked a shard up, you'd be smart enough to not go, okay, well, the sun is burning the planet. Or actually, no, that's not where he started at. He started with, there's this mist everywhere. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm going to move the planet closer to the sun, right, so we'll burn it away. And he's like, shit. It's 400 degrees. Let me put these volcanoes here, and they'll put ash into the atmosphere, and everyone will be safe from the sun. Like, it's just like the series of terrible decisions.
Yeah. He tried.
He did. Yeah.
A for effort.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's like the two things he created were the Kandra and the Koloss.
Yeah.
Mm. And I mean, I guess the Koloss are a thing, but the Kandra are really cool, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the Kandra.
Yeah, finding out the Kandra's origin also was for both the Kandra and the Koloss, both their origins kind of fucked up, but it was still fascinating nonetheless, though.
Yeah.
Very fascinating.
Going into Hero, we can go ahead and talk about that with the Kandra. Like, I love their story in the whole thing, but in Hero especially. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, that was an incredible reveal that, you know, we find out that because, you know, you're kind of thinking, it's like, okay, well, the Lord Ruler managed to keep this a secret from everybody. Mm-hmm. What about the fucking, like, 20 people or whatever that we kept reading about that were on this journey?
Yeah, what about them?
And then, yeah, I mean, he ties it up very neatly here. Like, those were the first Kandra, and those are the ones that are basically in, like, the stone bodies or whatever. They're not talking to anybody. Yeah. I don't think they've ever even left this place.
It doesn't seem like it, right? No. Yeah, so that was a really cool reveal, and it made sense, and yeah, it's kind of fucked up, you know, but
I think it's more than kind of fucked up.
I mean, you know, that Rashik, man, he's a real piece of work, let me tell you. That guy.
He's a dickbag. Like, even when they try to redeem him in Hero just a tad, and you're like, okay. But, like, in Secret History, when you meet him again, like, Rashik gets killed, you're like, nah, you're just... you were kind of rotten to begin with.
I'm hoping Sanderson doesn't go the dickbag redemption too hard on.
All right, think about okay. So how long had the Lord Ruler been Lord Rulering?
I think like 1,000 years.
Yeah.
So I think I'm a pretty good guy. If I were made Lord Ruler of this planet, and you talked to me 1,000 years from now, I might not be so tolerable. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? I think it could be the same thing with him. He was probably a pretty cool guy at one point, and then 500-600 years later, you guys start laying the law down more effectively, and then before you know it, you know, people think that you're this evil dickbag ruler.
He kind of seemed like a dipshit in the logbook.
Yeah.
And that was before.
Oh, okay, bear with me here.
Oh no!
To some people, maybe even in this room, if they took a log of my life from their POV, I might be kind of a dipshit. All right.
It was his book, though.
What is that saying? We're all the bad guy in someone's story or something
like that? There we go.
That's true.
Yeah.
Or that we're all the hero in our own story.
That part, too. That's
probably
That's way more common than it should be.
Rashik is definitely the hero in his own story.
Mm-hmm.
That dude's like, I did so much for this planet.
I did so much good here.
Like, he kept them from discovering instant noodles. That's a factual thing that happened. Because, you know, he controlled the technology. That's why, like, in 1,000 years, they talk about this, that the technology on Scadrial did not advance because he kept a tight lid on all of that. Mm-hmm. I'm like, these motherfuckers got like canned goods and stuff. Like, you know, they would have gone. I mean, you haven't seen it yet, but I mean, you see in 300 years of like not having this guy around, how far the planet, like how far their technology goes without somebody limiting it there. He kept it for 1,000 in basically like feudal times, you know.
You're really making him out to be a bad guy here, and I don't.
He is a bad guy.
He saw a problem and he tried to fix it.
That's right.
I think he eats his corn the long way. I apologize.
I think you broke Lauren. You made Ace take his glasses off.
It's the most disrespectful thing you can say.
Oh, Lord.
Are you okay? Are you gonna be all right? Are you gonna be okay? All right.
It's an image you can't put out of your mind once it's once you see it. You know.
I mean, if you've got pewter, it's probably a lot easier. You know, you just get that real good chomp. Okay.
Yeah.
So Hero of Ages.
Maybe that's customary. All right.
Oh God.
He enacted a law where everybody has.
Oh my God. Also, I just want to point out that this is a Cosmere episode, and you busted out a Bear With Me here before me.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That I don't think that's ever happened on any episode.
Yeah, it hasn't. Yeah, put that in your bingo card.
Yeah. Yeah, that along with the fucking 44 escaped monkeys was not on my bingo card.
Oh.
Did they round those up? Did anybody?
One. They have done 1 of 40. Well, I am terrified of monkeys, so I know how many they have found.
So you know how in like Resident Evil you'll find the little notes laying around where it's like, yeah, we were experimenting with this stuff, and then like some of the zombies got out. You know that like those notes you find around the world. Well, like this straight up reads like that. It's like this primate fucking research lab
in South Carolina,
and like 40 something monkeys escaped.
Like they in the CSRA.
Now, when we say monkeys, like what kind of monkeys we talking about here?
Smart escaped ones.
I don't think like gorillas.
Yeah.
I think like the small ones.
Okay, but so no chimps, right?
I don't think so.
No, I think they're like the
Yeah, I'm over here like,
monkey-looking guys.
There's a couple of movies about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shit don't go too well for the humans.
God.
There's that one movie that The Rock is in that's about this or whatever.
Oh,
where like all the gorillas get out or.
Oh yeah, not San Andreas. Whichever movie that was for
Rampage.
Rampage.
Yeah. He went through a time period where they just made the same movie with like a slightly different twist over and over again.
And he wore like the same shit.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll tell you how much I love my kid though. For her 16th birthday, we're going to the Dominican Republic. We're going to a place called Monkey Land.
You told me about this, yeah.
And I have very strong emotions about it. Please, if you've been to Monkey Land in the Dominican Republic, comment down below why I shouldn't go so I can show it to my kid.
That's really specific.
But yeah, I'm real nervous about it. Like they climb on you and you feed them and stuff.
We're gonna get like 17 messages saying you should definitely go to Monkey Land. It's amazing. Aside from definitely not a monkey.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what a monkey would say.
You should also bring all bananas and food stuff that you can.
Yeah.
They tell you can't have anything in your pockets. You can't have your glasses on your face. Monkeys are thieves.
Oh yeah, huh?
They will pickpocket you real quick.
Damn.
I feel like that's reductive. I feel like you're stereotyping those monkeys.
A little bit.
No, it's in the rules.
Oh, okay. All right, well. All right, so you know where there aren't escaped monkeys? On Scadrial.
Exactly.
And
That was
all right.
a transition.
I love the intro to this book. Like, in this book, right off the rip, they're like, all you know, everything's off. Like, the gloves are off. We're going in. Mm-hmm. And we kind of start with we now get to see full tilt badass Ellen, full Mistborn. You know, we got the reveal at the end of the last book. Now we get to see it in action. I love the iconography of just Ellen in his like white like emperor clothes or whatever with the giant fucking sword just destroying Koloth. Like that's just such a cool scene to me.
I just imagine somebody being like, "You done fucked up, Ron."
Yeah.
Ellen.
Well, and it's the interesting thing I love about Hero of Ages is not only that Ellen gets all these cool ass powers and like he gets a big ass anime sword and you know everything, but it's that they do not help at all. Like in the overarching plot, no. It's like you now have all this power.
That's true.
Congrats.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
You're gonna get some really cool shit before you die. You know.
Yeah.
I agree. And I love that my favorite character in this book was somebody who really wasn't even on my radar in the first 2 books.
He was on mine.
Was he?
He was.
He was kind of on my radar, but like I liked him. But like he became like my favorite character in this book.
Love Spook.
I was gonna say,
Spook.
Pretty sure we got a bunch of Spook girlies.
Yes, loved his character in this book. Made this book for me.
Sanderson never specifically says he's a twink, but you know.
He's a twink.
He's absolutely
He's totally a twink.
He's fitting some stereotypes.
I don't think you're allowed to be a twink and talk like that. Those two things don't mix.
You're not reading the same books I am.
Gambit's not a twink.
Bullshit.
Gambit is not a twink.
In X-Men 97, he's a twink.
He's a twink for like 5 frames in that TV show.
No, he's a twink for the whole time. Just because he put on different clothes, he's still a twink.
This is why you don't like Channing Tatum, because he doesn't fit that stereotype for you.
Channing Tatum looks uncomfortable in that suit.
Channing Tatum looks uncomfortable as Gambit.
He does. The whole time he's in that Gambit outfit, he looks like a 300-pound guy sitting in coach.
He looks
on a
like,
3-seater plane.
My friend and I were talking about this, and we were like, he looks like Channing Tatum on Halloween playing Gambit.
Yeah.
That is what he is in that movie. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good gag.
It is. It got the pop or whatever. Like, oh shit, but it's bad. It's my least favorite part of that movie.
Gambit is a twink though, like as a whole, especially 97.
We can disagree, but we'll move on.
Okay, I might give you a 97, but yeah, you got 97. That's about it.
Okay.
I have extensive knowledge of twinks, so.
That's true. Yeah, I also...
It's that Cloud, you know, like that's a classic twink.
Cloud is a classic twink.
Yeah.
You know, but Cloud is like a weird one, because he's like a strong, silent twink.
Yes,
he like doesn't talk at all.
That's
He just
true,
does that a lot.
He's a pretty twink.
Yeah. He's there to be seen, not heard. He knows his role. I think this is a good place to start. I think Spook grows on everybody in this book. Because he gets his main character status.
He does. It becomes like he gets his own arc, kind of, for just one book, finally. Because he was kind of a background character in the first 2 books.
He's a creeper in the first book.
Yeah, for sure.
He is a creeper in the first one, and it's nice to see that he gets the kind of growth moving forward. Because in the first one, you know, hey man, you know, we all shoot our shots sometimes. They don't.
Yeah.
You know, but when that shot don't land, bro, you gotta
let it go. You gotta watch it go.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta scoot on, man. He was a little obsessed, you know.
He was still hanging around there.
Yeah, he was very interested in Ben. But I mean, and then honestly, I don't remember a whole lot about his arc in Well.
No, I don't think there was a whole lot of his story in Well, and probably one of the reasons why it didn't. Yeah. It felt like a filler novel to me.
Yeah, I don't think he was really in there at all. I mean, maybe a mention, but not much else.
Yeah, I mean, it was just more or less kind of the same things he was doing in Final Empire. He was, you know, Spook, go do this, you know. And
he was the errand boy.
He was the gopher.
Yeah.
He kind of reminds you of Todd from fucking The Boys. In the sense of like, when you first meet him, you're like, I don't think I like this guy. And then, like, for Spook, he goes from being a creeper to now he's like a hardcore, like, Kelsier fanboy.
Yeah.
In the second book, he's like trying to start like the Kelsier fucking religion or whatever.
Yes.
He's trying to like found survivorism. And you're like, why are you always on some bullshit?
Yeah.
But then by the third book, he really comes into his own and like super likable. Because he really steps up. You know,
Does.
in here.
Yeah.
Definitely agree.
Yeah, it's you know the process of becoming a main character is never an easy one. It seems like there's always some bullshit associated with it.
You gotta have that trauma, man.
You gotta have that trauma, yeah.
If you're gonna be a protagonist anyway.
Yeah, if you're gonna be a protagonist, you gotta have that trauma. And man, it's like I don't know if that's worth it. But
I'll be a background character.
yeah, I'll be nameless soldier number 12. You know, but no, what Spook goes through here in this story, I thought was really powerful. But it was it was something that I didn't really know how this was gonna play out for him. Until
I didn't either.
Yeah.
I thought he was definitely on the chopping block. I'm not gonna lie to you.
He got close.
He did.
He
in
did.
fact.
I held my breath several times.
Turning pages like no.
So when he's hanging out with Kelsier, did anybody see through that? Did anybody think it was like really him? Or?
No, I never
I
thought.
didn't think it was really Kelsier. I didn't know what it was. If it was a Chandra, if it was like mental break. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
But I never thought it was
Right.
actually Kelsey.
Exactly. I didn't ever think it was physically Kelsier.
Mainly because like they were talking and he never was like, you should kill the nobles.
Right. He
Yeah.
never gave him like actual solid answers and advice to the problem.
He also just didn't have the personality at all of Kelsier. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
See that?
Yeah, like he didn't really seem to have the mannerisms. He didn't really seem to have the demeanor. He didn't really seem to talk like Kelsier. You know, like there was any of the lightheartedness that Kelsier brings, even in dark situations. None of that was there. It was all straight to the point. You know, very blunt, very forceful. That was kind of the way that it was being treated.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. We talked about Sazed a bit, and obviously, like, he comes up a lot in this book. This book was hard, with him being my favorite character, to go through it, because he's basically lost you said earlier, he's lost such a huge piece of himself. And in the first two books, we kind of always see him, like, you know, he meets a lot of people that have these kind of like crises of faith, or maybe don't have a faith. And I forget who it is. It's actually Kelsier, I think. He's like always going through his little Rolodex of religions, like, hey, you know, maybe this will work out for you.
Kind of reminds me of Benny in The Mummy.
Yeah, a little bit.
So, not a coward.
Yeah, except for not
And I will point out for everybody here except for Ace, one of the religions that he suggests to Kelsier in one of these books is Trellism. This is actually the first mention of it in the Cosmere. But that will come up later. But I just thought it was awesome that, like, all the way back that they had this kind of seed planted.
I will pretend to know what that is.
Sure. It's some bullshit. But you know, we kind of see him trying to do that to himself now. He's trying to
Find something to hold on to.
Yeah, he's trying to find something that he really believes in, because he's had such a crisis of faith here, you know. And it gets even worse for him when Marsh goes and slaughters all the terrorist people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at this point, this is like that community. While they didn't love him for being involved in the shit he was involved in, like, he was still a part of them. That was like part of his identity, and like now even that's been taken.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, so he's really going through it in this book. And you know, you kind of wonder, okay, what's the through line here for Sazed? And you know, I think in retrospect, like, some things that happen with him become a bit clearer, you know, in certain moments. But yeah, I mean, you can't not like Sazed's journey, especially throughout this book.
Yeah.
It sucks to see, but you have to respect it because you know that he's going to have to end up somewhere. Like, you have to trust in the author that he's not just putting him through all of this for no reason.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's Marsh. I'm joking.
Man, I don't know how wrong you are about that shit because, yeah, I mean, kind of. What's crazy, man, is I wouldn't put Sazed or Marsh in like the top 5 Cosmere trauma stories. Maybe Zane. Zane got some bad trauma, but we get our first real introduction to shards in this book. And very early on in the book, they talk about Ruin, the thing that Vin accidentally released from the well. Mm-hmm. What did you guys think about Ruin as a antagonist here? Because he almost kind of has the Sauron problem, right? It's like he's in the background and he can't really be there, you know?
No, you made a really good analogy there with the Sauron problem or whatever, is that he can only have like minions kind of like carrying out his work, if you would, because he has no physical presence there.
Yeah. He can't physically show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did feel that, and I think the only difference is that, at least from what I can ascertain, Ruin, at least in this book, he provides more of a personality than what I typically get from Sauron.
Yeah.
Oh no, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's more personably written.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Sauron too, you know, in a different era. Like,
yeah,
Sauron is like wholly the personification of evil. Basically.
Yeah.
There's no gray to it. Mm-hmm. It's like this person is evil, and in like modern writing, we tend to not like that, right? Mm-hmm. We don't really appreciate that. It's
morally gray is there are what's in.
There are definitely times where like you are the embodiment of evil. That's fine, but you just have to know how to do it. You know?
Right.
I mean, that's dark side, you know.
Yeah.
But it's hard to have a big bad as an author without giving reasons for why they became the big bad, or something for somebody to be sympathetic in, or like a understanding of how they got to be the big bad. Anything like I don't love books where there's just a big bad and it's just cut and dry and there's no reasoning. There's no how they got there. There's no explanation. They're just the big bad. You know what I mean? I prefer stories where you have a how we got here with your antagonist.
You don't even have to agree with it, but you just have to see how they got from A to B.
Exactly. Like, why is this person evil?
Yeah.
I don't know if you're watching Penguin.
Oh yeah, I finished it.
I'm a few ups back,
you?
so
yeah.
No spoilies.
Okay, no spoilies. But however, I feel like that show does a really good job with kind of what I just said.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I haven't watched it. I haven't sat down and actually really solidly watched it, like paid attention to every episode. But my brother is obsessed, and he had to stay with me during the whole hurricane issue because his apartment, he lived in an apartment, a ground floor apartment, completely flooded, and it took them about a month to get him another apartment. Wow. And so he, was a nutcase while he was at my house because he was worried about a lot of things. Yeah. He is a severe creature of habit person, and to the point where he can only work jobs where it's habitual. He's a stalker. Yeah. And so he also has thousands of dollars worth of pop collectibles and things like that that he owns, and PS5s and things like that. And when they were at first trying to just clean the water out of the apartment, they left his door unlocked all the time, and he was scared somebody was going to rob him. Like,
I'll be
it was a
honest.
big old thing. But anyways, he really dove into that penguin while he was staying with me. So I saw a lot of it in the background. I have not, like, sat down and gave it my full focus, but there was episodes where I was like, this is really good storytelling on a villain type of thing.
It's interesting because Agatha and Penguin both came out at the same time, basically.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them are villain-centric main characters.
Yeah.
And we have talked about this at length. It's like anytime that Hollywood has tried to do that, Loki is, as much as, like, you don't like Loki,
Okay.
the Loki show, and as much as I did like the show, but I also realized that they did this and hate it, they always just make them good. It's like they, like Venom, for instance. Venom is supposed to be an anti-hero at best. No. Like, they made him this laughable, like, jokey kind of thing, that they're going to sell a bunch of kids toys of him or whatever. And I'm very happy to say that both in Agatha and in Penguin, unless some crazy shit happens in the last 3 episodes, they have neglected to do that.
Yeah.
And another comparison, we just talked about this in our Agatha review, is I won't go too much into it, but death is in Agatha, and death is a force of nature more than anything. They actually talk about, like, can death be evil? And it's kind of the same situation here. Ruin is a force of nature, essentially. Like, yes, like an individual picked up that shard and gained that power, but at the intent of that shard, at its most basic principles, is to break things down into their most basic parts, which is, atoms, essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
So, is Ruin evil? I mean, everything that we get elsewhere in the Cosmere about A.T., who is the vessel for Ruin, Hoyd comments that he was like a really nice guy before that,
Right.
and just over thousands of years, this is what he became.
Yeah. So it's cool for AT to do that, but when I say Rashik, just over the course of years, he just kind of becomes who he becomes. Then it's a problem. I was just putting that out there. We can keep going.
I think holding a piece of divinity that's going to draw you toward it, no matter what, and just kind of becoming a grumpy old asshole are two different things.
I think it's relative.
Hoyd has been alive for thousands of years, and he's chipper.
I think that depends on who you are.
Yeah, we know at least one person who would disagree with that. But, I mean, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. We also get preservation here. A little bit. Just a bit. I'd say the kind of star moment for preservation in this, you get more preservation in Secret History
Oh yeah.
than anything else. But we get that moment in Hero of Ages for preservation where Elend has kind of reached that point where he's down and out. Like, he's kind of ready to give up. Yeah. And preservation kind of uses up the last little bit that he's got to, like, reach out and be able to talk to him and encourage him to go on. And then he dies immediately after that. That's actually the first time in the Cosmere that you see a shard drop, essentially. Is that moment with Elend. But what did you guys think about preservation in this book?
I mean, honestly, like not a whole lot.
Yeah.
In this book, I guess more or less like, man, Rune's doing a whole lot. Man, you need to step your game up a little bit here. Do something. But I mean, no, I really didn't have a whole lot of thoughts on him here. It's really in Secret History where he really came around as a character for me, and then I was able to kind of retroactively go back and and view him differently in Hero of Ages.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Because you didn't really... I mean, yeah, you saw what he did for Ellen, but that was... You didn't really see much from him. You didn't see how he was doing really anything.
I'm going to go one step further and say I even appreciated him more in this book after reading Stormlight. Because then I fully, understood a little bit more of the shard concept and things like that.
That's fair.
So it almost took, a full circle for me to really be able to go back and be like, oh, so...
I agree with that. I don't want to rabbit hole us here, but recently I was listening to a discussion about preservation, and they kind of spoke about preservation as being against change, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas ruin is kind of a catalyst for change.
Yeah, he's like the chaos.
Yeah, preservation is kind of anti-change. And that could also be a negative thing too. Mm-hmm. Preservation can mean stagnation.
Well, I mean, Lord Ruler was doing that for 1,000 years.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The intent of that shard is not always going to be a positive thing. I think in Hero of Ages, you get more of preservation's plans than you do of actual preservation themselves.
I would agree with that.
So, since we're on this, the one of the things that really I never saw coming in this book was the ATM mistings.
Oh yeah,
that was another one of these twists where Brandon throws it at you, and then you're like, "Fuck!" He put this right here the whole time, because they actually all the way back in the first book when Kelsier's teaching Ben about ATM, he's like, "Oh well, there are no ATM mistings,"
Right.
Yeah. They're already that early laying the groundwork for this, which I think is kind of an advantage that he had of writing all three of these at once, because he wrote them all together.
And then split it into 3 books?
Well, he wrote them as 3 books, but he wrote them all and then released,
Okay.
So that's how they came out a year apart. And he's going to do that with Era 3 as well. Era 2, it does not feel as... I love Era 2, don't get me wrong, but it does not feel as...
cohesive?
Thank you. I could not... The thesaurus was busted.
No, I 100% agree with that because I told you the issues that I had with why I feel like I didn't connect with Lost Metal the way that you guys did was because I took such a chunk of time between reading. I binged Era 1, I binged Era 2, and then I hopped over to Stormlight because there was nothing more for me to read.
Yeah. And
then I had to come back to Lost Metal, and I was in Stormlight mind, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So... yeah, I'm excited to hear that he's going to do Era 3 the way that he wrote Era 1 and then release them, in...
That Smith's closer to you there.
Oh, so sorry. And then, release them in, hopefully a timely manner of each other.
Yeah, I agree. Era 2 wasn't even supposed to be a thing, right? It's he wrote Alloy because his flight was delayed. And then... everyone, he was going to jump from that to era, the next era, which was supposed to be Era 2 at the time. But everybody really loved those characters, and so he was like, well, shit. So I think he wrote Shadows and then Bands in between other projects. And then he was like, I'm going to get around to Lost Metal. Promise. And then it was just a while. Other things had to happen. It takes him 3 years to write a Stormlight book, so... and then Skyward took off, so there was just a lot going on there. Let's see, who else have we talked? We haven't talked about Breeze at all.
I love Breeze. Breeze is my favorite of the crew. Yeah. I love Spook, but Breezy's where it's at. I love Breezy.
Breeze is definitely a bard, right?
Yeah, he's totally a
for sure.
And I love his girlfriend.
Arian's great.
She calls him Breezy. He hates it, and it's adorable.
Yes.
I love it because, I call Timmy Timmy. So, and to everybody else, he's Oz. So, I like that.
Yeah. You just let the homies in on a huge secret there. Oz's name ain't Oz. So.
Nah, it's Timothy.
Yeah. If you want to leave the homie Timmy in the comments, he will not be upset about that at all. As a matter of fact, I encourage it.
Good times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead and timestamp this so he knows I'm not responsible.
It was me.
So I gotta ask this, Ace. This is kind of meta here, but is Keejum lightly based on Breeze? This is his one shot character.
Oh, okay.
From the comics.
That's a great question. I'll say this, not consciously.
But looking back at it,
it's like looking. Wow, a lot of this does track. I was gonna say, except Breeze is I think he's more brave than Keejum, but then I was like, well, actually, yeah, there are some similarities, like the way they both kind of expunge the truth, and
I never thought about this until right now.
That's neither have I until you brought it up. I mean, there are so many similarities. Like, whenever they speak, you know that there's a likelihood that there's a layer of bullshit that you're getting. Great question. Not consciously, but subconsciously, there may have been some serious influence.
So he has a D&D character named Keejum who's a bard. And then another friend of ours has a D&D character named Draco who's a ranger. And they go on these adventures together. And there's an in-world comic book of their adventures.
That's amazing.
But the comic book is told from Keejum's point of view, and it's like completely different from what really happened.
That's amazing and in depth, and I fucking love that.
It's become a whole thing.
Yes, it's a whole thing now. Is
this like in the second era where we have those newspaper clippings?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I put a broadsheet in the campaign just yesterday.
Nice.
Yeah, where a random innkeeper was talking about how the beds in his inn just randomly disappeared, and it's like a tabloid or whatever. But,
wonder what happened there.
Yeah, but I don't want to rabbit hole us any further. Let's talk hemalurgy, everybody's favorite magic.
Oh gosh, yuck.
We find out the grimy, gory details of why those inquisitors have those spikes through their eyes.
I hate eye stuff. Like that's a for me. Like and yeah. Oh god, no, I can't do it.
No, I 100% agree. I hate eye and fingernail stuff.
Ugh.
Hemalurgy to me is like, it's hard to think of like a more disgusting magic system. Right?
Yeah.
Because it's insanely horrific. Mm-hmm. When you find out how the spikes are created.
And it's like, okay, it's like, I guess, but did it have to be this way?
Like, it's on brand, but really?
Yeah.
And it's, of course, this is Ruin's magic system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it tracks.
Tracks?
I think that we have not seen even a little bit of what hemalurgy could do Cosmere-wide.
Do you think he could put it in the forefront in Era 3? Do we know anything about Era 3?
Well, to not really... we can talk about this without spoiling. I think by the time we get to Era 3, I think that you're going to have, like, pharmaceutical allomancy. Like, I think you're going to be able to buy a fucking monthly subscription to fucking Pewter or whatever.
I would love a
Pewter Blue Chew.
dystopian...
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Pew-chew.
Pew Chew.
I would thrive on a dystopian, like, futuristic Mistborn era.
Well, we are going to get that. So there's going to be 5 now. So Era 3 is going to be like 80s.
So he plans to live forever.
Correct. Yeah. He says that I think 64, he intends to have it all done.
2064?
No, like by the time he's 64.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which also is the number of published works that he has is 64.
That's also true.
It must be like a secret number for him, like a special number maybe.
Well, it's going to change.
True.
In a few weeks.
Yeah.
He says that Wind and Truth is the halfway mark for the Cosmere.
Okay.
So There's a lot.
There's a lot
But-
out there
but-
already.
Yeah, Mistborn Era 3 is going to be 80s. And then Era 4 is going to be like cyberpunk, basically.
Nice. I
And-
do love the 80s. God, I love the 80s.
And then Era 5, of course, is going to be our space age. And that's going to be like the end of the Cosmere. And I think shit's going to be really crazy by then. Like, I mean, like, just the idea of like, what was it, steel push? We have it right here. But like, let's see. I should know this. Yeah, steel. But like steel push powered spaceships. I mean,
That's cool.
it's going to be crazy. And I mean, we already know, you know, based on some other magic systems in other places, like what you potentially could do, like an awakened metal mine, for instance, like what that could become. Yeah, don't bring things to life. It's always bad for everyone. But I did think it was like the hemalurgy reveal here was very interesting and like such a huge part of the story.
Yeah. Again, it just kind of goes to show how twisted ruin can be. You know, just the whole process of it all, and it's one of those things where it's kind of hidden in plain sight. You know, we've been seeing these still Inquisitors since book 1, and they're disturbing as hell.
Yeah.
And so just to see, and then just to go back again to poor Marsh, like how many spikes did he end up with?
I think they said he had over 15.
Yeah, in my mind I thought 16, so it's got to be somewhere around there.
16 is the magic number in this book.
That's true.
Yeah.
Be damned.
As a matter of fact, the number 16 is recurrent across the Cosmere. So there are 16 shards, for instance. But 16 becomes very important in this book when we find out about the Atium mistings. So that is, which by the way, that is a retcon on Brandon's part. Is the Atium in Era 1 is actually not pure; it's an alloy.
Oh shit!
Yeah, it's an alloy of Atium and something else. Like the 11th metal, which is like Palladium, is gold and Atium. But
The amount of knowledge you have in there in this world.
Yeah, that's not on the sheet.
Is intensely
That's in here.
impressive.
That's in here. But yeah, the Atium, but because he realized that a god metal should react differently to this because of the way the other god metals all work. And so then they kind of retconned it in a way that this Atium is an alloy. It's not like pure or whatever. Some random trivia for you there. What else? What else do you guys want to talk about with Hero?
Yeah.
Have we talked about what's going on in FedEx City yet?
No. So we the party is split, right, in this
Right.
book. We have Spook and Sazed, and does Breeze go with them as well to Urtal?
Oh, jeez.
To our
I
resident
can't
person
remember.
who just finished
Yeah,
it.
you just read it.
Okay.
Where's Breeze in this book?
Oh, this is what we're doing right here. Okay. Yeah. I'm very disappointed that none of you Cosmic nerds have this on the tip of your tongues.
I think it's been 5 years since I've read these 3 books.
It's been at least 5 weeks for me.
I was gonna say, like, I'm ground zero for these. Like, I read them forever ago. I read them in the trade paperbacks. Can you imagine?
And see, here was my disadvantage though. Fuck you! I think y'all did the same thing. Never mind. I was gonna say I read them back to back to back.
So, yeah, me too.
Yeah, that's how I read it.
Unlike these two, I wasn't reading anything else at all. Like, I didn't sit down and read a book of my own accord for probably like 3 years before I read Mistborn. Mistborn got me back into reading.
What made you read Mistborn again?
I have a friend of mine that lives in Wisconsin I used to work with, and he's like super obsessed. Imagine that. And he was like, "You must read these. They're amazing."
Nice.
And that's how I became part of the Borg.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like it. I feel like Breeze did go.
I think he did.
Yeah. I mean, don't quote us on this one. You know, you can quote us on a lot in this show.
If we're right, it's because we're really good. If we're not, this is fan fiction.
Exactly. And it can be changed, altered slightly, as long as it doesn't ruin the story.
Everybody remembers Breeze was awesome in Tao.
Yeah.
Although that whole thing, you know, to me, I thought they did such a good job with, like, creating this kind of hopeless scenario.
I agree.
Because you're in this fucking city that's in rebellion against Elend, and you're, like, trying to start an uprising inside of a rebellion.
Yeah.
And while you're trying to do this, a fucking, to your knowledge, evil demigod, or, well, to your knowledge, just an evil god, they don't know anything about shards here,
Right.
is deleting the planet.
And Sazed has the SADS. So Spook is dealing with a lot.
Yeah, they're like, hey, Stacey, you got any cool knowledge that would help us in this specific situation?
I have no knowledge to stand on at this time.
Yeah.
What?
Stacey, go tell these people about something, inspire them or whatever. He's like, nah.
Breeze was in fact there.
Yeah, Breeze had to be there because the shit probably wouldn't have gone very well.
Yeah.
No. You had Spook and
I
Sad
just remember Breeze not being able to get, like, good conversation from any of the other main players.
Yes.
You know, because
Yes.
Spook was weird. and Sazed was depressed.
Yes. Sazed was in his Kaladin form. Poor baby.
Poor Kaladin. Sad boy. But, you know, we also have Vin and Elend, and they're doing something just as hopeless in Fadric City. Mm-hmm. They're trying to take it over. Mm-hmm. And I guess Ellen's like, his idea is like, oh, if I can, like, unite everybody, we have a better chance here. But I'm like, nah. You know? And actually, you know, while they're there, Vin gets trapped by Ruin. Mm-hmm. And,
which scared the crap out of me.
Oh, my God, me too.
That whole time, I'm like, oh God, this is awful.
Yeah.
What's her brother's name?
Oh, it starts with a K, doesn't it?
I thought it starts with an R. Reen.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Sorry.
You're just trying to throw me off. I understand.
I was testing you.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Yeah. And,
I need to do that more often.
Putting me through, like, what's the worst superhero movie of all time tournament wasn't.
That was friendly content.
The homies liked it, but not me. That was depression. But yeah, when Vin got trapped and she thinks that it's Reen she's talking to, and then that kind of revealed that it's actually Ruin, and Ruin's just fucking with her, you know?
Yeah.
And Vin doesn't know this at the time, but Ruin understands that she is perfectly poised to be able to pick up the Shard of Preservation. Yeah. And Ruin knows that Laris, the vessel for preservation, is going to die soon.
Yep.
And he does not want Vin to be there to pick that shard up.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
And I mean, Ruin hasn't really struck out yet, so at the rate he's going, he's good to go.
Well, he's had thousands of years to sit there in that well and just be pissed.
Yeah. He's festered.
Yeah. And, you know, I love the story with the two of them, right? You know, they agreed to create this planet together, which is an interesting thing in the Cosmere, right? Most of the planets that the other stories take place on, Adonalcium created those already, like Rashar predates the Shattering. Ruin and Preservation made Scadrial. They created it together. And, you know, Preservation has been sneaky as hell the whole time. He's like, if you go in on me, with me on this planet, we'll build it. And Ruin's like, cool, but you gonna let me destroy it, right? And he's like, yeah, of course.
Eventually.
Yeah, of course, I'll let you destroy it. And he ends up trapping him, of course, in the well. But, you know, another important thing, too, is when they created the humans on this world, Preservation also was a little sneaky here, but he put a little more of himself into the humans than Ruin did. And I'm sure that will never come up. Ever again. But because of that, Ruin is just like a tad bit stronger than preservation.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about the Conjure yet. I love the Conjure subplot in this. If you even call it a subplot, I mean, it's more of a B plot.
Yeah. So we're talking about like all the stuff with the Conjure. You have to talk about Tensoon.
Yes.
Not a fan of the goop. Just saying.
He is the goop.
I don't like the goop.
You don't like the goop?
I don't like the
You
goop.
don't like the goop soup?
Nope.
As we come to find out, if you're imprisoned as a conjurer, they pour acid on you.
Yeah.
And turn you back into essentially a mist wraith. We find out that the mist wraiths are just conjure that are missing a spike. They are just goop. And so Tensoon gets reduced to goop, and this is where we get introduced to my girl Milan.
Yes.
I love her.
I do too. She's a favorite.
She's my favorite conjurer. 100%.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And there are a few.
That,
There's a few. I mean, the Conjurer are around forever, so they're going to pop back up. But Milan is the GOAT. I mean, she's incredible. She doesn't turn into a goat that I know of, but she could.
She could.
if she wanted to.
If she wanted
She
to.
should want to.
Yeah, I love her here. She's got that kind of like youthful optimism. And you can tell that the Conjurer are like, they're all a bunch of old fuddy-duddies that are, just kind of set.
Especially like the second generation, it seems, are the ones who are more or less in charge. Because like the first generation, I guess they're kind of almost kept away in secret, like the super old and decrepit. But the second generation, the boomer conjurers don't really seem to be much about. They don't really seem to care much about like anything that like the Gen 3 or on down really have to say in terms of like change or progression or anything like that.
Yeah. Let's talk this ending and we'll pop over to Secret History and wrap this thing up. But what do you guys think about the ending here?
It was a lot.
It was a lot.
It was a lot. It was truly the first, I think, Slender Snatch.
Sanderlanch.
Yeah. And it was like, oh gosh, it just kept. It's one thing right after the other. And you didn't really have time to recover before something else was happening.
All of his books have the Sanderlanch, but I will agree, this is the first one that's like huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that last 100 pages is wild. Like I don't know how you can put it down.
So for me, I think it kind of started with, and I forget the name of the guy. I think that he was introduced in this book. He was a soldier, and he ended up doing a task for Spook.
Captain Demo.
That's okay, yeah, Captain Demo. And he has the objection to go get this letter. Fucking nerd. He has to like get a letter to Vin, but unfortunately for him, he is intercepted by Marsh.
Yep.
And they have a fight. And he puts up a good fight, if you want to call it that. But Marsh, dismantles this man. And then, obviously because Ruin is pulling the strings here, he's able to take a look at the letter and see what it had. And, it was basically like information about Ruin himself. And it was like, I'm not going to let Van get this.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, that fucking plan went out the goddamn window. And so, but then from there, obviously the story just keeps rolling on. And then it doesn't stop until it does. But for me, that's kind of like where the avalanche of oh shit moments start and don't really stop until roll credits.
I didn't pull that minor ass character out of my ass, by the way. Like Demo is a world hopper and shows up elsewhere.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Out of all the people to make it off world, Demo is one of them.
I remember there was a time where you wouldn't let me see your phone case, or it was something about your phone.
Yeah, because my phone case, so here's the thing, this was like a couple phones ago, but the back of my phone case was Sazed picking the shards up.
Oh.
Yeah, it's spoilerific as fuck. Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's an awesome image, though.
Yeah, I bet.
But let's talk the Vin earring.
Mm-hmm.
That I was like, why didn't I think of this from the very beginning? I feel dumb.
Yeah, that was one that there was a lot of breadcrumbs kind of for.
So many.
And I didn't pick a single one up. I'm just walking, kicking them. You know what I mean?
But the interesting thing is that, like, the whole time I'm wondering what's the importance of this earring that they keep referencing, because it has to be more than just a keepsake from her mother.
Yeah.
And so I'm always wondering, okay, when's the other shoe gonna drop with this earring, and what is that shoe? And meanwhile, like, I'm being told the answer the whole time, and it just didn't hit.
No. It's one of the best twists in fiction for me. Like, it's so good, especially because he was just, like you guys said, he's so obvious with it. Mm-hmm. It'll be like, yeah, Vin walked in, had a discussion with Breeze, whatever. She had in her earring, just randomly he'll put that in there. You're like, right. And
yeah, why do I care about her earring?
That's a strange detail for you to keep mentioning.
However, I'm not going to think anything of it. Keep reading.
Our friend, the homie Dylan, is very, like, as he read through these, there were so many times where he would get things earlier than like a lot of people, including myself, that would kind of get things. But the earring gets everybody. Mm-hmm. There's like that reveals just tremendous.
It's just, yeah.
And then she fights all the fucking Inquisitors. Like,
oh yeah,
that is a hell of a fight.
It is.
Yeah, I have a playmat that's imagery of that fight.
Oh, cool!
It's really good.
I have a bunch in my house of these metal. Well, they're from Stormlight, but you have some too because I've gifted you some.
Yes.
Of these epic scenes, and I haven't seen any Mistborn ones like them.
I have the bookends now. I did get the fucking bookends that have Vin. If the Critic Shaw is actually the backdrop, and you have Vin with her big ass sword on the one side. And you have Marsh with the obsidian axes on the other.
Oh, that's dope. You'll have
to show them to
me.
It's really cool.
Yeah, it's really good.
You'll have to show them to me. I also want, this is slightly off topic, but I recently saw these book-sitting things with all three of the Bat Boys that sit on top of your books.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
The, what's it, you got me the Oath, or the Honor Blades?
Yes.
From when they broke the Oath Pact. And I have two of Kaladin on the ledge.
Yes, Kaladin on the ledge. So fucking good.
That's such a great scene. Anyway.
I can't wait for you to read Stormlight, dude.
Yeah. He's gonna really like it. Yeah. Sazed.
I'm on my second read through.
You're just holding it to yourself, right. Keeping it to yourself.
Sazed being the hero of ages. I thought this ending was like perfectly wrapped up with a bow on top.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. It was the surprise ending that I think Martin was going for with Brienne, and that fell flat, but Sazed made sense, kind of type of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, comparison? I mean, in order to pull this off, like, people have to like the character.
And there has to be enough, once again, breadcrumbs to make the connection.
Yeah.
Well, for Bran, it just comes off as insanely villainous. Like, this motherfucker just Dr. Manhattaned himself into being the king.
Yeah.
Like,
a little bit.
I 100% agree. And where with, like I said, with Sazed, it made sense. Like, this isn't the person I was thinking it was going to be at all. But when it all came down to it, it made sense.
I actually made a call, like, in the second book that I thought it was going to be him.
Wow.
That's early, because, like, I can usually call stuff fairly well.
Well, the reason I thought it was him was because he is the one who holds all the knowledge. He has all of these minds that have everything in them.
Yeah.
If, like, yeah, he had a crisis of faith, but that makes him a good character.
Hero's journey.
Yeah, he needed to have that personal thing, but when it came down to it, he knows everything. He's got it. And so it's kind of like, for me, when they really started, like, playing up the whole metal mines and, like, what all of them meant, I was like, I think it's him. Yeah. He wouldn't tell me.
I would not. I very much won't spoil these for anyone. She'll even ask, and I'll be like, nah. But, there's also, there's that bit in there about where they mention, like, the gender. that it could be either way.
Yeah.
Right? And when you think about it with Sazed, that actually like tracks more than anything because he's a eunuch. But yeah, I mean, at the time, you never. I admit, I never saw that coming. Like I hoped, but it never occurred to me that they were Hero of Ages. I will say this about the audiobook: kind of gives the shit away with Hero because in the epigraphs for the third book, we are actually reading from the words of founding that Sazed makes at the end. And the way that he says it in the audiobook, at the very beginning, this book starts with, I am, unfortunately, the Hero of Ages. And the way that they read it, they narrate it in the audiobook, it's kind of evident that it's Sazed, like, because he talks the way
like
that Sazed says it. Yeah. So
that is true.
Fortunately, I never listened to the audio for any of these back then. So
yeah, I haven't done audio for any of these. The only thing I've done audio for in the Cosmere is Empire's Soul, and I've done Stormlight in bits and pieces only because that's how Baron consumes them. And so if the scene is really, really good, he'll be like, "Do you remember this? Like, come listen to this."
I with Stormlight, I've done this a lot because I used to drive back and forth a lot.
Yeah.
Because I would read the book and then, I got to go travel for 2 hours. And so then I'd listen to the audio in the car. And then I'd pick it back up from the book. There's so many Stormlight characters that Michael and Kate have just defined for me where I read the pattern especially. Lies. Lies. I read pattern in Kate's voice. Wax is, I like... Michael Kramer is Wax for me, so there's certain characters that are really defined for me like that. I think that's it for Hero of Ages. Unless anybody had something else.
No, I really enjoyed the ending.
How'd you guys feel about Vin and Ellen?
And their end, if you would.
I cried. I thought it was a fitting ending for them, but it made me so sad.
It was poetic and it was perfect, but it was sad.
Yeah. It was one of those bittersweet things where you're like, yeah, this is good, but it was also like, no.
Yeah, I mean when Vin is finally able to harness the mist and then she actually picks up the shard and ascends, the nature of preservation, she can't really kill a thing, and the thing is, like, if she had held it for any longer, she may not have been able to do what she did. But the moment that Ellen is killed, like, she's able to, like, just attack Ruin with all of her might and all of her will at that point. And they both die in the process. It is heartbreaking that it came to that, but Vin was always willing to give, like, to make the self-sacrifice.
Yeah, Vin was always willing to give every last bit of herself for the cause.
And says its whole thing about, like, I rebuilt their bodies, but, I couldn't put their souls back together. That line is awful. That scene didn't get me. I didn't cry for that. I was so happy about the Sazed thing. Like, I was sad about it, but I didn't cry. I cried in Secret History, though, when Kelsier talks to them.
Oh, yeah.
Where Kelsier's just like, I mean, Sazed's God, I can go talk to him. He's in the crew. We can, and then, Vin just kind of, gives him that, like we're done. Like, we're going to go, like, we don't want to fight anymore. We're going to go, off into whatever the next adventure is. And, I think Kelsier is just so rocked by that. And seeing, like, the sorrow from him.
Yeah.
So. She hits him with the line, what's it, you still have a lot to learn about friendship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Fuck.
Of course, he hit her with that line not long before he died.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The imagery of Vin and Ellen holding hands in the grass. It's just, one of those moments.
And also the flower.
Yes.
Mare's flower. The blue flower,
Yeah.
From the picture. that's also like really iconic too.
It's good moments.
As we know, Kelsier is too angry to die.
Yeah.
Secret history. First thing he does, punches God in the face.
Yeah. And I think, doesn't Preservation say something like, well, that's never happened before?
Yeah. Yeah, Fuzz.
Fuzz. Yeah, he calls him Fuzz. Yeah.
Yeah. He's in the crew, man.
Oh, yeah, he's in the crew. I mean, does he know that, though? Like,
Kelsier tells him.
I mean, that's different from him knowing, because, like, there's a lot going on with old Fuzz here in this book. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. So Kelsier's alive, and he's trying to prevent his soul from being pulled out. Ace, I gotta ask, what'd you think, like, when you read the opening line of this? Because, you know, everybody, as far as you know, Kelsier's dead and gone, this whole thing. And, you know, this book starts with, and then Kelsier burned the 11th metal. It starts with the Lord Ruler, picks up from the moment the Lord Ruler smacks the ever-loving shit out of him.
Yeah, I guess my first thought was, where are we going with this, and why am I reliving this specific moment again? But then, you know, you see that, oh, Kelsier lives on, you know, and that was, like I said, that was like revisiting an old friend. Like, hey, man, how you been? You know,
There's a lot going on while you've been missing.
Yeah. And it was one of those things where, even though I read the books, you know, back to back, I didn't realize how much I missed Kelsier until, you know, I got to read him again on the pages. So it was great revisiting this character, and then also just kind of seeing his thoughts and reactions to not just his new environment, but to what was going on in the physical realm. It was great.
We get to see our first real look at the cognitive realm here. We see a lot of that shit in Stormlight, but this was kind of the first introduction to it, I think, for all of us.
Yeah.
Shit's weird.
Yeah, shit is a little different there. Yeah.
But he's trying to stay alive, though, and he's trying to get Fuzz to help him out, and he's like, the only thing I can think is to stick you in here. And in the well, and Kelsier in the well comes to find out he's not alone in there.
Right.
And I love where he's like, yeah, I'm not really sure what that is down there, but it's very angry.
Yeah. What is the end of the moment where, like, he goes and, like, tries to perceive ruin?
Yeah.
And it just, like, all the psychic damage, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, he takes max psychic damage just from trying to, like, look at Ruin's representation in the cognitive realm.
Yeah.
The best scene from the well, though, is easily Hoyd showing up.
Yes.
Love Hoyd.
Me too.
So much.
And to give you some context here, so what we know is that Hoyd, he has been in possession of a thing called a Dawn Shard. What that is not going to be important to this. But as a result of this, he can't harm things. Like, he cannot harm, like, another creature. He can't even eat meat. Like, he just can't. But because Kelsier is technically dead and he's just a cognitive shadow, Hoyd can beat the ever-loving shit out of him. And
It
so
sparks joy.
he has been saving this up for
For
a long
a
time.
lot of stories.
Yeah.
He plays a role in. You'll see him again.
A lot.
A lot.
Okay. I had a feeling probably would.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I remember seeing him beating the shit out of Kelsier. Like, oh, fight back.
Hoyd has some pent-up aggression.
Yeah, and he's very, very, very old. I mean, he's as old as all of the shards. So, but yeah, he has a very minor role in like the first Mistborn book, and also in White Sand we saw him a little bit or whatever. But yeah, Secret History is kind of like no, he's gonna start playing more of a role. We do know that he went to the well here. He used the well to cross over into this physical realm. And he does have a bead of Lauracium. And we do find out later on that he consumed it. So he also, he has like a bunch of powers from around the cosmos. So he's
kind of collecting.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got like full allomancy and all this other stuff.
Shit.
He will show up in various
I had a
places.
feeling.
In various places.
But Kelsier kind of goes on a quest here to help Vin, and we track him to. He ends up going to a place called the Eyrie. And I remember reading this the first time and being like, "What the fuck is happening here?"
A little bit.
Like, okay, these guys have a magic orb,
Good for them.
Yeah.
and it will let you pick up preservation. Like, this seems like some very high level loot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to fill in a bit, the Eyrie, they have a fortress in the spiritual realm, and they are made up of ancient Elantrians. You haven't met this magic system yet, but they're featured in the book called Elantris. Ta-da! Imagine that.
Huh.
Big reveal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would have never seen that shit coming.
But their form of investiture, their magic system is called the Door, and this is basically what this orb is made out of. It is made out of a way to form connection. And so like they've basically magically engineered this thing to connect someone to Preservation's shard. I'm not 100% sure that they knew what the fuck they were doing with it.
Okay.
Because, like, this is an insanely dangerous item.
Right.
It would let someone like Kelsier pick up a shard.
Yeah.
Right? But he couldn't really use it, which kind of worked out. But we also run into Chrysala and Nash here.
Yeah.
Which, unlike everybody here, you were familiar with who the fuck they were.
Yeah, I was like, hey.
Yeah, from White Sand.
Yeah.
So the Duchess of Drip shows up.
That's right. Hey, Cassandra, what's up, girl? Yeah.
We didn't know until White Sand that all her outfits are just fabulous.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Every single one.
Yeah. But, she's like, we're kind of avoiding Scadrial right now. And if you knew who she was, you'd be like, this is probably a sign I should also leave. She's like, things are real fucked up over there right now. But what do you guys think about Kelsier's little journey here in Secret History?
I love the shenanigans he pulls to get that orb.
Yeah.
It was.
Yes.
It was like, it almost felt like at Ocean's 11, almost like the
What it
Cosmere.
reminded me of was in God, this is obscure, but in Final
do that.
Fantasy 12,
Okay.
at the very opening, you are Vaughn, who I fucking hate, but you're Vaughn.
Right.
And you're sneaking around the palace, trying to not get caught, and it brought that in, and I was just like, huh, because he's also like causing mayhem here, but
Right.
going over here, and yeah, it was very Final Fantasy 12 to me, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I loved his quest here. And I love that he gets the shard and he's kind of just holding it for Vin, because he gets it and then he can't use it, right? Like,
Yeah.
he's so just opposed to the concept of preservation. I mean, you got Kelsier here, who is all about, like, there's always another secret and finding out everything there is to know and, like, killing the fucking nobles, and, he kind of is an instrument of destruction.
Oh, yeah.
He's more ruin than he is preservation.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. He's more ruined than preservation.
And his shard, like, the shard just won't. He can't really use it. But fortunately, Marsh is able to come through and snatch that earring out of Vin, which we didn't really cover that, but amazing play by Marsh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was probably like the last bit of agency that he was ever gonna really have at that point.
Oh, 100%, because he realized that, the more he did exactly what Ruin wanted, the more Ruin would put his attention elsewhere.
Yeah.
So he just makes Ruin think, okay, I'm full tilt indoctrinated, blah, blah, blah. And he kind of is, right? Like, Marsh talks about, like, he would kill somebody and it would just bring him this incredible joy to destroy something.
Yeah.
And, like, he just bides his time until that one moment where he can muster what all his will that he has left and pull that earring. And he basically saves the day.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
He
a power
does.
move.
He is the unsung hero.
Yeah. We talked about this scene where, after it's all said and done, you know, Kelsier gets to say goodbye to Vin and Ellen. It's a tearjerker for me.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's a good moment, but it's emotional.
It does. It also like leaves me with a really good feeling of where Vin and Ellen are. You know what I mean? Where they're like, you still got some stuff to deal with, but our stuff is dealt with.
Yeah.
We're ready to move on to the next thing together. You know what I mean?
The thing I like about Vin and Ellen, they have a full arc.
Yes.
And that's it. And Sanderson's done with them. I could never see him revisiting them.
Yeah.
And that makes me happy because I would hate for him, and I don't think he ever would, to pull some crazy, resurgence of Vin. And I don't see him doing that just because of how Secret History does end.
Yeah, and I mean, there's 2 moments in the Cosmere era that I know of that where Vin is talked about and by people that knew her. And both times are just like, fucking, give me the single anime tier. Like, she's just an incredible character. And she's much more impactful to the Cosmere, I think, having had that full arc and left. Like, we did what we set out to do.
Yeah.
And we're going to go be at peace now. And I think Kelsier in that scene knows. Like, oh shit, well, I'm never going to have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think he can. Like, even if he wanted that, like, that died with Mare for him.
Yep.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And we don't know that he could have had it then either.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm not quite sure.
His personality, I don't think so.
Yeah, maybe pre-snap, maybe, but I doubt it.
Yeah, we'll never know because that's not his story.
Yeah. Ace, man, here's where I'm going to ask you. What do you think's next for old Kelsier?
It says shh, K.
Yeah.
So I can't say anything.
That's not for you. That's for K. It's a different acronym that Caleb has for me. It's completely different.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like keep Ace young eternally.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what that. Yeah.
I gotcha.
So, yeah. So it has nothing to do with you. So feel free to speak your mind entirely.
I directed the question to you, though.
Oh yeah. Okay.
To the person here who doesn't know.
Yeah, we all know. Yeah, I'm only asking you this.
So I can only go off of like the last moments of Secret History, right? So like I remember there was a moment where he's talking to Sazed and he says something along the lines of, so what are the odds are for me to basically go back to like the physical realm, like to get my body back or something along those lines. And Sazed says, not good. and Kelsier replies, you never were a good liar. And so like I think that, I mean, if there is a will, like there's the possibility of a will. But like here's the interesting thing, like 'cause you mentioned this earlier, Caleb, like Keyjum is Breeze, but he writes himself like he's Kelsier.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like I think that Kelsey's gonna try to find some kind of way to eventually venture back to the physical plane. I can also see him in the meantime though hanging out in the realm that he's currently in.
Haunting Spook. You know they had to fuck with Spook, right? After all those visions that he had of Kelsier before.
I was a little surprised that Kelsier was able to convince Spook that no, this is really me this time.
And now actual Kelsier shows up.
Yeah. So that's what I think is going to transpire. But again, I do not know for certain. What do you think, Kay? Is that pretty?
It's just really good apple juice.
Okay.
Yeah. There's always another secret.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's also interesting too with Spook, right? Because he's like, hey, you should make him a full Mistborn also. Mm-hmm. And that's like not a thing anymore. So, And interestingly enough, with Breeze and Ariane, Breeze starts himself a noble house. And that is going to come into play because the main character of Era 2 is actually their ancestor.
Oh.
So,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Wax is fucking great. But
Maxillium.
yeah. Yeah, that's just like some Breeze shit that to name your kid Waxillium.
Yeah.
Like, that's just pompous.
I mean,
it's not his kid. It's like his
great
grandfather or something like that. Well, yeah. Does anybody have anything else? And we'll go ahead and wrap this up if not.
No, I mean, I just really enjoyed. I think my favorite thing about these particular three, the whole of Mistborn Era 1 is the different story arcs and character arcs that we do get. I feel like we get multiple arcs for multiple people, and they're all different, and they're all unique, and they're all individual, and they don't feel fake, and you can see the breadcrumbs. And it's just a really good example of, like, character work, in my opinion. Whether or not, I love the second book, whether or not I feel like it's a filler, whether or not whatever, you can't take away the character work. It's incredible.
I always hate it when I read a particularly good comic book because I know I'm so backlogged it's going to be forever before I get to go back and revisit it.
Yeah.
That's how I am with this. Like, this is just such a fun read, a fun ride, and just to see, like, as you mentioned, all these characters, where they came from to where they ended up at, and I would just love to go back again and just see how I would view things on a second read through. To see like the breadcrumbs that I've missed, like all the little clues that were hidden there, the things that I just missed entirely. It would be amazing, but there's just so much more. So
you gotta read Stormlight, so then you can get all the references and the T-shirts and the hoopla and be in the cool club.
He's really gonna love Stormlight.
I know you are.
Confidently
I know how much you're gonna love Stormlight.
I don't think he's gonna like War. I think he's gonna feel like I do about Warbreaker.
You do?
Yeah.
God, you gotta appreciate how beautiful it is, though. I love the world. I love the characters. I love the I know that he doesn't consider it a romance.
It's a romance.
Thank you. I love it is like, to me, it's almost like Princess Bride level of kind of like romance, where it's just like very epic and consuming kind of thing.
To me, it was the most romancy one until we got Yumi.
Yumi is incredible.
Yeah.
That's
Yumi
the
is
romance to me. And I don't like a romance typically, but I love some Yumi.
Yeah, I loved Yumi. Obviously, I love Tress, and there's some romance in Tress, but it's not really like love romance. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's more just like,
Tress is Princess Bride.
Yeah, absolutely, it's Princess Bride.
Yeah.
But I get that vibe from Warbreaker just because, like I said, it's just this really beautiful vibe, I guess, is the only thing I can say about it.
Okay, I guess in the words of Leonardo DiCaprio, who I think turns 50 today.
Yeah.
You had my attention, now you have my curiosity.
I hope you're Team Warbreaker like I am.
Okay.
Because there is a badass character that I think you'll like. Like, it's not all a romance.
Right.
You've got a cool, like, comic relief source, kind of, I guess you would call it. I think it just encompasses a lot of different things that I love in a great fantasy.
I'm going to let you know when I start that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to hit you with some updates.
Please do.
You know how Ant-Man is cooler in Civil War and the Avengers movies than he is in his own movies?
Yes.
Okay.
Really?
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Huh.
I don't care. I am a Warbreaker stan. It is my number 2 Cosmere novel.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm on Ant-Man. I don't really like any of the Ant-Man movies. If they say quantum one more time, I want to break the screen.
I have not seen the latter Ant-Man movies. I have only seen Ant-Man 1.
Did you like Ant-Man 1?
I enjoyed it.
It's downhill from there.
Okay, I was going to say,
I don't mean like I mean, like, just like that.
Yeah, Ace, I'm sorry, but I'm not the hugest superhero movie fan. I do think that there are some that are done really, really well, and the ones that I love, I feel like you hate probably.
Give us like a top 3.
I really like.
Unpack this.
Okay, are you guys? Please don't kick me out. Please don't kick me out. But I really like Mad Max. Okay, I know it's probably not Marvel.
Mad Max, like the latest one with Tom Hardy.
Yes, I really liked that movie.
All right, well.
Thank you. I knew that was going to happen.
No, what's it called? Like you talking about the one that just came out, or Fury Road?
No, I haven't seen Fury Road. I'm talking about.
So you haven't seen the first one?
Fury Road is
with Tom Hardy.
Not the Furiosa lead one.
Okay.
I've seen the one with Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron.
Okay, that's Fury Road.
Is that based on a comic book?
No.
Okay.
I didn't like
that.
So,
all right, okay.
Oh, okay, it's not? I thought it was the Mad Max comic.
It's just based off the old movies.
No, it's just a terrible film.
It's not a comic?
No, it's a U-turn.
I swear.
They may have Mad Max comics, but they came after the movies.
Yeah.
Are you dead serious? I really thought that was a comic.
Maybe you're thinking of Conan?
Oh, I mean, I love Conan. Like, absolutely love the Arnold Schwarzenegger Conan movies. Those are phenomenal. Okay, so we're talking like Marvel. My favorite Marvel stuff.
It doesn't have to be Marvel. It can be DC,
I'm a
Marvel.
Batman person.
Anything with superhero.
Yeah, I'm a Batman person.
Okay.
But I love Val Kilmer Batman.
Yes. Yes.
I love Val
So,
Kilmer
homies,
Batman.
thank you guys for coming in.
No, we need a Schumacher cut of Batman Forever, damn it.
I love that freaking movie.
I mean, listen, if you guys like 2-hour-long tour commercials, then that is the movie.
No, you want to watch Batman and Robin.
If you want another 2-hour tour commercial.
We owned those toys, though. They did their job.
Yeah, the job was to sell toys, not make a good movie.
And I love the Dark Knight movies. Those have a special place in my heart. The Christopher Nolan Dark Knight movies.
Absolutely.
Now we're talking.
All right.
I mean, Avengers are cool. I liked the big ones like Endgame and Infinity War. Yeah, absolutely. I liked the first Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay,
I have horrible feelings about the third Guardians of the Galaxy.
How did we arrive here?
Because we started talking about the movies. I wanted to walk out of the theater and was not allowed.
So you know how we talked about the opening scene of Venom 3 is like made for Brendan?
Yeah.
Same.
You think that scene is made for
Lauren also? Yeah, they're very similar in this regard of like.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
Yeah,
I like people more than I like animals more than I like.
Do you care about mild Venom spoilers?
No, because I'll never.
So he like kills a bunch of like dog fighting ring people and like saves the dogs.
Hell yes.
Yeah.
Hell yes. I 100%.
But then he eats them.
No, he doesn't.
Y'all saw my face.
Although I will say this, me and Ace, especially me, I was very fucking nervous when that scene was going on. I was like, man, please don't, because like I watched Guardians 3 with Brendan.
Yeah.
You know, I just kind of like looked over a couple of times and like I'm pretty sure you can still pull his like fingerprints off of that chair.
Yeah, he was white knuckling it.
Yeah, and yeah, she took it worse than he did.
Yeah, I got up and went to the bathroom a lot. Like I said, I wanted to leave at one point, but my husband was really enjoying the movie. Even though he's an animal person too, he could kind of go past it. I kind of hit a roadblock at a certain point and kind of turned my mind off, and I couldn't honestly tell you what happened at the end of that movie.
Yeah.
It just was too much for me, and there was no trigger warning. That's what really pissed me off. Nobody warned me.
Our house was very upset at me.
Yeah, we watched it, but we had an inclination that it was going to be kind of like...
I didn't even know it was Rocket's backstory. I didn't know anything. I went into this bitch blind.
Yeah, but me, James, and Kira both were very furious with him for not giving us more of a warning than it's bad.
See, my mom went to go see it with us on opening night, and she's expecting like
I was expecting to dance with my Walkman. Yeah. Okay, I was expecting a Guardians movie.
And then we just got this dark-ass movie, and it's got an F-bomb in it, and, like, it was tremendous. I loved it a lot.
Yeah, I'll say that movie was for me and Caleb,
Yeah, I was like, fuck this, like, playing around nonsense. I mean, the soundtrack's still great.
Oh, yeah, soundtrack's still great.
I'm like, give me this fucking dark tale of, like, with family at the core of it, families go through some shit. So
yeah.
Well, your whole family doesn't end up dead most of the time.
Rocky has a new family now.
Yeah, he's got a new family.
He has a replacement family.
This is like his third replacement family.
Yeah.
Poor thing.
Because you assume he probably had a raccoon family originally.
Oh no.
One more thing, yeah.
So
yeah.
But we have.
You're gonna make her cry.
I think about it. Now I'm thinking about the cute little raccoon parents he had.
We have spiraled. I'm about to create another Kaladin Stormblessed over here, and so I think we should probably wrap this one up. This episode has been in the making for a while, ever since we reviewed the first one. It is now on the two of us to read Saga and come on here and review it.
You have to, because it was really, really, really good.
Okay.
Yeah, Lauren read it like a year ago.
She read it months ago.
Yeah. I started it and then realized that I probably should not read this in public in the airport.
It's a little graphic sometimes. I mean, just a little titty here, a little...
They're called graphic novels.
Right.
It's in the name.
Yeah. I mean, I probably should have been, like, tipped off at, like, the alien titty on the front cover.
Yeah. And then, like, the first page, that's also like, okay, I see what
you're doing. Yeah, like the first panel.
Yeah.
But this has been incredible. I'm glad we got to cover Era 1. I do think the three of us are going to have to do a Wind and Truth review.
Yes.
That's got to happen.
And we should do a 2024 recap the same way that we did.
I really want to do a 2024 recap, because that was my favorite video we did last year. I mean, just no holds barred. We just talked shit about everything in 2023. It was so much fun, and I still watch that video back.
That was a fun one.
That was a fun one, and I feel like enough has happened this year in pop culture and stuff that we could do.
Me and Ace have suffered a lot in 2024. So.
No.
Yeah, really quickly, I was thinking about, okay, it's time for me to get ready to do the categories for the Homies Award. And I was thinking, okay, well, for one of the categories I did last year was Best of the Worst, and then it hit me, I had to put, like, all the movies in that.
Everything.
What's your highlight, then?
Deadpool and Wolverine.
That is honestly was so good. Did Dune 2? No, that was the end of last year.
Well, it'll just be the comic book.
Yeah, it'll just be the comic book stuff.
Okay, got it. That's right. Sorry.
I mean, Dune 2 at this point is movie of the year for me. Like, it's not close.
I think that's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's Denis Villeneuve, so you can't say his name without that. Yeah, it's not the same thing.
Right. I think we are dangerously close to this being the longest episode ever. It might be. I don't know.
I think our 2023 review last year went longer.
No, we did 4.5 hours on something.
It was the 2023 review, guys.
No, it was Mandalorian Season 2.
Okay.
We went 4 hours, huh?
Yeah. Because it was me, you, Kevin, and Oz.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay. So I wasn't there.
And there has to be someone to pull that back in, and there wasn't.
Oh, it's very true. Yeah.
I remember our 23 review went long, though.
Yeah.
It did. It was fun there.
It was.
Well, we'll have to do that sometime between, your surgery and Christmas.
For sure.
And if not, we'll do it in January if we gotta. So.
Absolutely.
But thanks all the homies for coming and sticking it out with us, and thank you to everybody who, is here on the panel and read through all of these. Some of us more recently than others. I don't know how we'll do in the next episode. I guess maybe we'll have to do Warbreaker.
Yes, and I will stand my solid stance.
Yeah, me and Lauren will argue about Warbreaker for 90 minutes.
I'm going to reread it before it, too.
I think I might listen to it.
Oh, I do have it, too, on Audible, and I haven't listened to it yet.
I can listen to the Thor dramatized version.
Oh, I don't have the dramatized. I have the regular Audible.
I got credits. It'll be all right. I'll pick it up. That's going to be it. Wow, I don't close these off that often. So this has been awesome, and to wrap this up, I am superhero homie Caleb.
My name is Superhero Homie Q.
I am superhero homie Lauren.
You got it?
I'm superhero Homies Kaye.
Till next time.